Chapter 11:19. It was just as Yang Dingtian had imagined. There was no limit to how much dark mystic flame could devour. It was like a bottomless pit, continuously devouring, and devouring. Did the dark mystic flame have a huge breakthrough after devouring mystic chi? Of course, the negative energy of the dark mystic flame was getting stronger and stronger. However, how big was it exactly? Yang Dingtian did not know. In short, as the dark mystic flame devoured more energy, it did not become bigger, but smaller and thinner. At first, the dark mystic flame was the size of a fist, but as it devoured mystic chi, it became the size of a normal candle flame. Later on, it became the size of a grain of rice. Moreover, the smaller it got, the more energy it devoured. It was so much that it started to affect Naga Shuang's share of energy devouring. In the end, Yang Dingtian's dark mystic flame was like a sharp black thread. When Yang Dingtian released it, it felt like it could cut through everything. Then one day, Yang Dingtian could not help but try it. He released the dark mystic flame that was as sharp as a thread and slashed it across. As a result, the thick energy crystals were cut open alive. The energy crystals that Yang Dingtian had a hard time digging with his soul sword, that was close to the emperor grade, were easily cut open by the dark mystic flame like tofu. Yang Dingtian was stunned. He wondered if this dark mystic flame could cut open the Chaos Emperor armor and the Demon King's sea of vital energy. Finally, 80 days had passed since he had entered different energy crypts. Yang Dingtian had broken through to the 24th level, and his dark mystic flame had completely turned into a terrifying energy thread. Along the way, Queen Poisa and Vulture also changed pyramids. Finally, it was time to leave. Yang Dingtian said to Naga Shuang, "It's time we should go back." Naga Shuang turned around and looked at the old Naga Empire ruins that had shrunk a lot. Her beautiful eyes were filled with reluctance. Then she asked Yang Dingtian, "Husband, do we have to go back?" "Of course," Yang Dingtian said. Naga Shuang continued, "Then are we still coming back?" Yang Dingtian said, "Once we eliminate the Demon King, Su Yantian, I will send you back." Naga Shuang said, "Unfortunately, by that time, who knows how much of the energy in the ruins will have dissipated." Yang Dingtian could clearly feel that she was reluctant to part with him from the depths of her heart. Energy was the lifeblood of Naga. Getting a Naga that was constantly devouring energy to leave its powerful body was probably the most difficult thing to do. Naga Shuang kept gasping for breath. Then she nodded and said, "All right then, let's go and come back as soon as possible. We will try to come back within a month." Then, Naga Shuang held Yang Dingtian's hand and flew away from the ruins of the old Naga Empire without looking back. Because she was worried that if she looked back, she would never be able to leave again. Because of Naga Shuang, the speed of the four of them returning was indeed much faster. In less time than before, they had already flown through the seemingly boundless dark void. This shadow void was still deathly silent, and there were still distorted lights and shadows. There was still no sign of life. At the end of the shadow void, there should have been an energy barrier. Medusa's trap enchantment. However, the energy source of this Medusa's trap had been taken away by Yang Dingtian. Therefore, this trap space was very abandoned and turned into an endless space of dead silence. Yang Dingtian and the other three kept flying and flying. Finally, they saw the incomparably huge statue of Medusa, which was tens of thousands of meters tall. However, the statue of Medusa, which had lost two eyes, was now broken into several levels. It had become a huge ruin, floating in the silent void. It looked especially lonely. After flying for tens of thousands of miles in the abandoned trap space, the four of them hit the energy barrier. Naga Shuang said, "At that time, I wanted to return to the human countries, but I was stopped here." Yang Dingtian asked, "Did you encounter any accidents or dangers when you passed through Medusa's trap?" Naga Shuang said, "Not at all." Yang Dingtian thought about it and found it reasonable. This Medusa's trap space was to prevent other creatures from entering the Naga Empire. It would certainly not stop the Naga. After flying through Medusa's trap space, it was a boundless void of darkness. After the countless dark matter swallowed to the extreme, it began to decompose. Pieces of dark matter condensed to the extreme, and after swallowing countless amounts of energy, it began to expand and expand. When it expanded to the extreme, it became an incomparably huge dark void space. There was nothing inside, only an infinitely large space, which had already surpassed the scope of the chaotic world. Shuang-er, your cultivation is too much higher than mine, so you may have to enter the space ring and jump through the space door, Yang Dingtian said. Naga Shuang was a little unhappy, but she turned into a stream of light and flew directly into Yang Dingtian's space ring. Then Yang Dingtian opened the space door. Poisa, Vulture, and Yang Dingtian jumped into the dark void space hand in hand. With the lesson from last time, Yang Dingtian immediately summoned his near-emperor-grade soul sword. Then, the three of them stepped on the soul sword and flew at a speed of more than tens of thousands of kilometers per hour. They crazily shuttled through the dark void space. In just a few hours, they flew millions of miles. Yang Dingtian's luck was very good. In less than a day and a night, they actually flew to the end of the dark void space. It seemed that this dark matter was either not big enough, or it was expanding too slowly, or it was expanding too late. Previously, Yang Dingtian had flown for tens of millions of miles in that ghostly void space before he managed to escape. This time it was only 1/10. However, when Yang Dingtian created the space door and jumped out of the dark void space, he did not see the border of the ancient sea serpent empire. It was still an energy wall. That's right, there was another dark void space in front of him. Yang Dingtian created the space door again, jumped in, and flew with his near-emperor-grade soul sword again. This time, Yang Dingtian was not so lucky. After flying for 3 days and 3 nights, they should have flown more than tens of millions of miles in this dark void space, but they still could not escape. Yang Dingtian could not help but feel a little anxious. It had been 6 days since they came out of the ruins of the old Naga Empire. At first, the situation was very smooth, but he did not expect to waste so much time in this dark void space. Hopefully this dark void space was not so big that it was infinite. Yang Dingtian was not done complaining. Something even worse happened. Yang Dingtian's near-emperor-grade soul sword suddenly became slower and slower, and finally came to a complete stop. What was going on? Yang Dingtian knew that a long time ago, the Naga royalty demon core of this soul sword was about to be exhausted. Especially in the Buzhou Mountain domain, when Yang Dingtian stopped the new demon king, Su Yan Wentian, from approaching, he frantically released the Naga royalty sword soul. This was the final consumption of the demon core's energy. However, this kind of dark void flying did not require much energy. Even if there was a little bit of the Naga royalty demon core left, it would be enough to fly for many years. However, he did not expect that it would run out of energy at this time. After breaking the fossil of the ancient sea snake empress, the Naga royalty demon core's energy was almost completely exhausted. What should he do? This godforsaken space was constantly expanding. It was not advancing at all. Instead, it was retreating. Moreover, in the battle with the demon king, Su Yan Wentian, the Naga royalty sword soul played a very important role. This was because this was the only attack that Yang Dingtian could use. Now its profound chi energy had actually been completely depleted. It was simply too unlucky. However, the problem now was more troublesome. The speed of the mysterious fire was only about 10,000 miles per hour, which was far from the speed of expansion of this dark void space. They would never be able to escape. At this moment, the Naga Shuang suddenly turned into a ray of light and flew out of Yang Dingtian's space ring. Ayo! Then, she suddenly changed shape in the air and turned into a huge Naga that was hundreds of meters long. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The Naga Shuang threw Poisa and Vulture into Yang Dingtian's space ring. Then, she opened her mouth and directly picked up Yang Dingtian. Whoosh! Finally, she turned into a ray of golden light and flew toward the east at lightning speed. This speed was actually not inferior to Yang Dingtian's Naga royalty sword soul. It actually reached more than 10,000 miles per hour. Naga was Naga. It was completely omnipotent. Yang Dingtian's luck was not bad. After a day and a night, they flew to the end of this dark void space and directly went against the energy boundary. Yang Dingtian called out Poisa and Vulture from the space ring, and then created a space door against the energy boundary. The three of them, hand in hand, jumped over. The moment Yang Dingtian jumped over the space door, the Naga Shuang directly turned into a ray of light and burrowed into Yang Dingtian's space ring. In this way, the four of them all left the void space. In front of them was the ancient sea serpent empire that had been swallowed by the dark matter. There was an endless amount of dark matter everywhere. Yang Dingtian took out the eye of the premier Naga, melted the dark matter, and kept flying toward the east. It was still the Naga Shuang, who complained that Yang Dingtian's speed was too slow. Therefore she took action again. With Yang Dingtian in her mouth, and the eye of the premier Naga above her head, she melted the dark matter and flew at lightning speed. Last time, it took Yang Dingtian 5 days to fly out of this endless dark matter. This time it took less than a day. Naga Shuang flew back to the ruins of the Sea Serpent Empire's magic capital with Yang Dingtian. After 3 to 4 months, Yang Dingtian once again returned to the palace hall of the ancient Sea Serpent Empire. He had finally returned with Naga. It would take at most 2 to 3 days to return to the human countries from here. There was more than enough time to fight the Demon King. The figure of the Sea Serpent Empress condensed and appeared, bowing to Naga Shuang. Chapter 1120. At this moment, in terms of cultivation, the Sea Snake Empress was not inferior to the Naga Shuang. After all, the Naga Shuang had not reached the demigod level yet. However, her attitude was absolutely respectful. Her body bowed to the bottom, and she was very respectful. It was completely different from when she faced Yang Dingtian. In fact, the Naga Shuang could be considered the granddaughter of the Sea Snake Empress. However, there was no such thing in the underwater civilization. Any demigod Naga did not have parents. They only borrowed the womb of a female sea snake, or a female mermaid. As for the humans who borrowed the womb, they had no status at all. The Naga tribe had always claimed that they were the descendants of the fallen black dragon. They had no blood relationship with humans, the sea snake clan, or the mermaid clan. Facing the ancient sea snake empress, the Naga Shuang frowned. She only glanced at her slightly and nodded. After that, there were no other expressions. Suddenly, the Naga Shuang's gaze fell on the Sea Snake Empress's face and said, "How is your cultivation?" "Close to a demigod, but never a demigod," the Sea Snake Empress said. Speaking of which, whether it was the Sea Snake clan or the Mermaid clan, their bloodline talent was very similar to the Speechless clan. Infinitely close to a demigod was their limit. Originally, the Mermaid Empire could also reach this level. However, it was a pity that most of the people of the Mermaid Empire were born after the Great Cataclysm. Coupled with the devouring of the dark matter, the energy environment and energy density of the Mermaid Empire were greatly reduced. Therefore, there were very few saint-level powerhouses in the entire Mermaid Empire. Therefore, the cultivation of the ancient Mermaid Empire and the powerhouses of the Sea Serpent Empire were the same. After violets arrived, the Mermaid Empire was surrounded by the dark matter, so their cultivation was greatly reduced. They were even inferior to the Fox clan of the Little Western Paradise. Although the concentration of celestial chi in Little Western Paradise was unable to support the Fox Demon clan to break through to the Saint Realm, they could still head to the Dark Realm to cultivate and break through to the Saint Realm. The Sea Snake Empress's cultivation base was infinitely close to that of a demigod. She was already the strongest person in this world, on par with the Demon King and Su Yin Wentian. Naga Shuang said, "If that's the case, then come with us to the human countries and eliminate the Demon King." Yang Dingtian didn't dare to mention this matter at all, because the other party would definitely reject it, and almost wouldn't put Yang Dingtian in their eyes. However, Naga Shuang made this request. The ancient Sea Snake Empress immediately lowered her body even more and said, "I should completely obey Master's request. However, once my soul leaves the ruins of the Devil Capital, it will turn into ashes. Unless I have a body strong enough to contain my soul. A strong enough body, unless it was the complete Shura clan or the Silent clan." Yang Dingtian couldn't find the Shura clan. Yang Dingtian had a few members of the speechless race. However, almost all of the silent clan members had very weak cultivation bases and were very knowledgeable. They were completely lacking in martial arts talent. Yang Dingtian suddenly remembered that he did indeed have an extremely powerful body, and it was a completely empty shell. In fact, this body wasn't a real human body, but just an energy body. Yang Dingtian asked, "Your Majesty, do you know about the heaven and earth mystic fire?" When the ancient sea snake empress faced Yang Dingtian, her attitude was relatively cold. She immediately nodded and said, "Yes, what do you think?" Yang Dingtian said, "The demon spirit demon fire is ranked 4th in the world. If a heaven and earth mystic fire isn't devoured for a long time, it will develop consciousness and condense into an energy body. This kind of body is called a fire spirit. I have a fire spirit body that is close to 2,000 years old. What is her cultivation level?" The sea snake empress's beautiful eyes immediately lit up. In the world, it was almost impossible to find a body that could withstand her cultivation. It was either the top silent clan or the ancient Shura clan. As for the ancient mermaid clan, they had long died. The ancient sea snake clan had long been fossilized. Other than these limited races, there was also a pure energy body. The fire spirit of the heaven and earth mystic fire was none of the top. The longer it was, the stronger it became. No one had picked the netherworld ghost flame that was ranked 3rd for more than 10,000 years. That was why such a powerful creature like the netherworld ghost emperor was born. The 1,000-year-old fire spirit body had already reached the peak of the saint level. Although its cultivation was not comparable to the sea snake empress, it was still very powerful. Although it wasn't comparable to the sea snake empress, its energy body could almost withstand the sea snake empress's astonishing cultivation level. Now that her fossilized body had been destroyed, being able to obtain a fire spirit body was the best result. Immediately, the ancient sea snake empress said, "If you are willing to give me the fire spirit body of this demon spirit demon fire, I am willing to help you deal with the demon king, Su Yen Wentian." "Mother, with you and Lord Naga, can we eliminate that demon king?" Queen Poisa suddenly asked. This mother immediately caused the sea snake empress to tremble slightly, and her gaze immediately became somewhat complicated. Would she have any mother-daughter feelings for Poisa? It was impossible to say that she didn't have any, but it was also impossible to say how deep it was. This was because Poisa was just an egg that she had given birth to. Before she had even hatched, the sea snake empress had already been fossilized. She had never taken care of her for a day, so this kind of relationship was very difficult to establish. However, Poisa was her bloodline and successor in this world after all. If not for the destruction of the Sea Serpent Empire, Poisa would have become the new empress. A moment later, the Sea Snake Empress said, "With Master Naga and me, defeating the Demon King, Su Yen Wentian shouldn't be a problem. However, it's almost impossible to eliminate him." Queen Poisa said, "Why? We don't want to defeat him. We want to kill him completely." Naga Shuang said, "If I join forces with the Sea Snake Master, we can destroy the Demon King's Chaos Emperor armor. However, we can't stop him from escaping. Moreover, he has the evil spirit energy and is undying and indestructible." Yang Dingtian suddenly said, "With the evil spirit energy, it's not completely unkillable." Naga Shuang said, "Husband, what do you mean?" Yang Dingtian said, "There is a kind of dark matter that is the product of being contaminated by the evil spirit energy. Therefore, although its energy level is inferior to the evil spirit, it has a certain degree of mutual restraint, and the darkness profound flame is the pinnacle of dark matter." After saying that, Yang Dingtian paused for a moment to let Naga Shuang and the Sea Snake Empress digest it. Actually, the principle was very simple. It was like using pesticides to kill insects. Over time, the genes of these pests would be contaminated by the pesticides and develop resistance. In the end, they could not be killed. Yang Dingtian continued, "We know that the Sea of Energy is an independent energy world that is complete and strict. The darkness profound flame can instantly cause a crack to appear in the Sea of Energy. Once a crack appears in the Sea of Energy, it can no longer contain the incomparably powerful energy inside. the entire sea of energy will instantly collapse and self-destruct. And because of the mutual restraint between the darkness profound flame and the evil spirit energy, it will be difficult for the evil spirit to repair this crack. Therefore, there is no way to stop the self-destruction of the sea of energy. Once the sea of energy self-destructs, the Demon King's body and cultivation will be reduced to ashes. Only his soul wrapped in the evil spirit will be left. It will be useless. After listening to Yang Dingtian's explanation, Nagashuang said, "Husband, the darkness profound flame and the evil spirit are mutually restrained. Can this theory be verified? Has it been tested?" Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "It can be verified. It has been tested." It had indeed been tested. At that time, Yang Zheng had used his own life to prove this point. He had used the dark matter to tear open his sea of energy and caused an explosion. Yang Dingtian told them about this matter. The Sea Snake Empress shook her head and said, "It still won't work. Among us, only Sir Yang Dingtian has the darkness profound flame. As for your cultivation level, it's simply too low. Your darkness profound flame can cause a certain degree of damage to the Demon King, Su Yintian Sea of Energy, but it is not enough to cause the Sea of Energy to self-destruct. You said that Yang Zheng used the dark matter to tear open his Sea of Energy, because he tore it from the inside. But you need to attack from the outside of the Sea of Energy, need to tear open the thick defense of the Sea of Energy." Yang Dingtian nodded, completely agreeing with the Sea Snake Empress's words. It was very simple for Yang Zheng to use the dark matter to tear open his Sea of Energy from the inside. It was just like opening the city gate from the inside and breaking through the city. Just one spy was enough. And Yang Dingtian, using the darkness profound flame to attack the Demon King's Sea of Energy, was equivalent to attacking the city wall from the outside. The difficulty was thousands of times higher. Wanting to completely tear open the Demon King's Sea of Energy? It was very simple, a darkness profound flame that was almost the same level as him would do. But just this point alone was completely impossible. Yang Dingtian's cultivation level of the 24th step was far from the Demon King. His darkness profound flame was very, very strong and had already become a first-rate power. But it was believed that it was still very, very far from the level of the Demon King's Sea of Energy. In this way, the battle with the Demon King had not happened yet, but the result was already decided. He could defeat the Demon King Su Yintian, but he could not kill him? No, this was absolutely unacceptable. Not to mention, the ancient Sea Snake Empress and the Naga Shuang were not under Yang Dingtian's control, especially the Naga Shuang, who always wanted to return to the ruins of the old Naga Empire. If he could not kill the Demon King Su Yintian, it was equivalent to failure. Yang Dingtian did not want to be on guard against a peerless expert who was close to the level of a demigod. He was completely unable to stop the Demon King from snatching his wife and children. He could not stop him from opening the door to the human countries, nor could he stop the Demon Fox army from completely invading the human countries. In short, he had to kill the Demon King in this battle, once and for all. Otherwise, to Yang Dingtian, it would still be a shameful failure. How to kill the Demon King? How to kill the Demon King? Suddenly, a shocking idea flashed through Yang Dingtian's mind. If this genius idea could succeed, then the Demon King would definitely die. Furthermore, Yang Dingtian would personally kill the Demon King. Relying on his own ability, he would kill the Demon King. Chapter 1121. After the Sea Snake Empress and the Naga Shuang worked together to destroy the Demon King's Chaos Emperor armor, Yang Dingtian made his move and killed the Demon King. This might be the most perfect outcome. How should he do it? Yang Dingtian's imagination ran wild. The idea he thought of was, add the darkness mysterious fire into the Naga royalty's sword soul. That's right. Merge the darkness mysterious fire and the Naga royalty's sword soul into one. Yang Dingtian's Xin Qi and darkness mysterious fire were not enough to break through the Demon King's sea of vital energy. This was because they were too far away from the Demon King Wentian's cultivation. However, the Naga royalty's sword soul's energy level was comparable to the Demon King's. Of course, just relying on the Naga royalty's sword soul would not be able to do anything to the Demon King. This was because the Sword Soul's energy attribute was not able to restrain the Demon King. Furthermore, the Demon King had the evil spirit energy, so it was even more impossible to harm him. Furthermore, the Naga royalty's demon core had limited energy. It could not even destroy the Chaos Emperor armor previously. This was why the Naga royalty's Sword Soul was not very useful in the previous battle with the Demon King Wentian. The reason was very simple. Its energy level was very high, but the total amount of energy was not enough. However, merging the Naga royalty's Sword Soul with the Darkness Mysterious Fire was completely different. This way, not only could it restrain the Demon King's evil spirit, it could also reach the energy level. However, it was extremely difficult to achieve this. Firstly, the Sea of Vital Energy in Yang Dingtian's Soul Sword Soul no longer had any Qian-Qi. The Naga royalty's demon core's energy was already depleted. Secondly, merging the Darkness Mysterious Fire and the Ancestral Swords together was completely Yang Dingtian's idea. It was a bold and imaginative idea, and he did not know if it would succeed. Of course, the most important thing was that his soul sword no longer had any Qian-Qi. Yang Dingtian explained his idea. Instantly, the Naga Shuang and the Sea Snake Empress were completely stunned. This was really a genius idea, and also an incomparably bizarre idea. Whether it was the Sea Serpent clan or the Naga clan, they did not put much thought into martial arts. Therefore, he did not have a deep understanding of the divine realm and the original code of the martial arts civilization. Of course, the ancient Naga's spirit adepts still had terrifying attainments in the divine realm. Otherwise, they would not have collaborated with Shiwu Piaoyan to write the Greater Space Technique. The Sea Snake Empress thought for a while and nodded. In theory, it's completely feasible. Yang Dingtian said. But my soul sword doesn't have any Qian-Qi left. The Naga royalty demon core that acts as the Sea of Qi above has run out of energy. Naga Shuang said. Even if it hasn't been used up, the energy in the demon core is still far from enough. The vast majority of demon beasts probably stored their energy in their demon cores. Naga, on the other hand, stored the Qian-Qi in the Sea of Qi. Therefore, the energy in the Naga's demon core is only 1%, 1,000th of his. Of course, Yang Dingtian knew this. If this demon core was all the energy in the Naga royalty, then Yang Dingtian would be invincible and kill the Demon King in an instant. The Sea Snake Empress said, if it's just that the soul sword has no energy, then it's simple. Just find a Sea Soul Crystal. Sea Soul Crystal, the most precious thing in the world. What was it? When the ancient Great Nirvana was destroyed, the end of the world suddenly arrived. The top expert was instantly buried by heaven and earth and suddenly died. Before his Sea of Qi could disperse, it was enveloped by a powerful pressure. Over time, after tens of millions of years of oppression, the corpse of this peerless expert had long rotted, and after the Sea of Qi was compressed countless times, it began to solidify into a crystal. This was the Sea Soul Crystal. It was both a crystal and a complete Sea of Qi. It was still a living Sea of Qi. It could still devour Qian-Qi, and even increase its cultivation. However, the conditions for its formation were too harsh, so most people would not be able to find a single Sea Soul Crystal in their entire lives. Yang Dingtian said. But it's impossible to find a Sea Soul Crystal in just a few days. The Sea Snake Empress shook her head and said, no, it's impossible to find a Sea Soul Crystal in other places, especially in human countries. But in our underwater civilization, there will definitely be one. Yang Dingtian was pleasantly surprised. Really? The Sea Snake Empress said. The experts of our Sea Serpent Empire will be buried at sea when they are about to die. They will return all their energy to the sea, and then through the sea, they will bestow it to their descendants. And this kind of burial at sea is when the bottom of the sea is torn apart, flying into the depths of the abyss. Then, the underwater continent will twist and close, completely enveloping their bodies and cultivation. Yang Dingtian was shocked. He did not expect the Sea Serpent clan to have such a tradition. The Sea Snake Empress said, it's not just the Sea Serpent clan. The Mermaid clan also does the same. Yang Dingtian now understood why the cultivation of the later Mermaid Empire was so weak. It was because the dark matter had surrounded their underwater kingdom. They could not receive the energy gift of their ancestors' burial at sea, so they became weaker and weaker. The actions of the Sea Serpent clan and the Mermaid clan were very noble. On the contrary, most of the Naga clan were so greedy. They pursued immortality and kept devouring. Of course, at the last moment, when the Great Nirvana arrived, all the Naga clans also chose to be noble and sacrificed themselves to pass on their descendants. Back to the topic, the Sea Serpent clan's burial at sea was indeed very easy to form sea soul crystals. It completely met the conditions for the formation of sea soul crystals. The Sea Snake Empress said, "Of course, after the Great Nirvana, most of the Sea Serpent Empire's territory was devoured by the dark matter. Most of our burial grounds at sea have also disappeared. However, in the demon capital, there is still another burial ground at sea." Yang Dingtian asked, "Where is it? Can I dig out a sea soul crystal?" The Sea Snake Empress said, "Of course not. This is the energy that belongs to the Sea Serpent clan. But now," the Sea Snake Empress sighed and said, "now there is no Sea Serpent Empire. I allow you to dig one. Of course, it's only one. No matter which one you dig out, no matter how high or low their cultivation is, they cannot be replaced." Yang Dingtian said, "Yes, thank you, Your Majesty. Let's go, follow me," the Sea Snake Empress said. Then, she led Yang Dingtian to the last burial ground of the Sea Serpent clan. Behind the palace of the Sea Serpent Empire, there was a huge underwater mountain range. This mountain range was filled with all kinds of crystals. In fact, the entire mountain range was a huge crystal mine. Between the two mountain ranges, there was a huge crack that was completely bottomless. The Sea Snake Empress said, "You go down alone. Dig out whichever one you find." "Yes," Yang Dingtian bowed and replied. Subsequently, he swam into this deep crevice alone. Because the sea soul crystal was completely ownerless, it had to be dug out by itself. There could not be anyone else's energy aura. After Yang Dingtian entered the crack of the abyss, he continued to swim deeper and deeper. 100 miles, 200 miles, 500 miles, 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles, 3,000 miles. Yang Dingtian kept going deeper, deeper, deeper. After entering the abyss, a full 3,000 miles. Then the abyss ended, and below was a flat crystal ground. That's right, everything around him was crystal. The energy density here was extremely high. Of course, it was not purely Xianqi energy, but all kinds of energy, both yin and yang. Yang Dingtian was looking for a whirlpool at the bottom of the crystal. That was because each of the whirlpools represented a sea burial tomb. The whirlpools were easy to find. Yang Dingtian did not choose, and directly chose the first whirlpool he encountered. Then, he used his near Emperor-grade soul sword and the million-spirit demon fire to dig down along the whirlpool. Digging was not easy, but it was not difficult either. 2 hours later, Yang Dingtian had already dug down more than 10 feet. All the way down, there were sparkling and translucent crystal stones. Suddenly, there was a bang sound as Yang Dingtian dug through, because in front of him was a natural cave. This was a natural tomb formed countless years after the sea burial. Their chi seas had been compressed into solidified sea soul crystals. However, their xian veins still had powerful energy. This energy overflowed, and over time, it became a cave that extended in all directions. Of course, these caves were much thicker and longer than the xian veins, because after the energy in the xian veins exploded, their volume increased by a lot. In addition, the original form of the Sea Snake clan was a few hundred meters in size. Therefore, the cave formed by the energy of their xian veins was also very large. The entire cave was sparkling and translucent. It extended in all directions and was completely like a crystal maze. Yang Dingtian followed the energy cave and continued to go deeper and deeper. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely get lost. However, Yang Dingtian had the deepest understanding of xian veins and knew them like the back of his hand. He easily found the main xian veins in the maze-like crystal cave. Then, he followed the main xian veins and kept going forward, forward, forward. In less than tens of thousands of meters, Yang Dingtian found a relatively large cave. The crystal stones inside were completely transparent, and emitted a blurry light. This was the sea of qi of the ancient sea serpent. If one was lucky, there would be a solidified qi sea inside, and an incomparably precious sea soul crystal. Yang Dingtian's luck was not bad. Almost at first glance, he saw the sea soul crystal. So the soul-returning crystal looked like this. It was not a stone at all, but something similar to a jellyfish. It was light as if it had no weight at all. It was beautiful and dreamy. It was transparent, but it contained countless rays of light. It was as if it was a separate universe. Inside there were countless stars twinkling. The Sea Snake Empress had said very clearly that only the top experts of the Sea Snake clan could be buried at sea. That meant that the Sea Soul crystal in front of him was equivalent to a Qi Sea that was infinitely close to a demigod. That meant that Yang Dingtian's soul sword could directly possess the cultivation of a demigod. Chapter 1122. How did he collect the Sea Soul crystal? It was very simple. He just had to direct his consciousness and energy into it. Although it was a very, very powerful sea of energy, it no longer had an owner. Yang Dingtian stretched out his hand, and a wisp of energy flew out, instantly touching the Sea Soul crystal that was close to a demigod. The jellyfish-like Sea Soul crystal trembled slightly, and then suddenly shrank. Then, it quickly approached Yang Dingtian and flew in front of him. It was really, really beautiful. Yang Dingtian looked at the Sea Soul crystal carefully. He didn't know why it was called a Sea Soul crystal. It felt like a piece of crystal. It was clearly an energy body that could be seen but not touched. Yang Dingtian stretched out his hand to hold the Sea Soul crystal. It floated quietly on Yang Dingtian's palm, very docile. However, when Yang Dingtian stretched out his hand to touch it, he couldn't feel anything substantial at all. It was just an energy body, a separate energy space. Yang Dingtian took a closer look. There were countless veins in it, and countless energy was shuttling back and forth. It was really like the Milky Way in the universe. Countless stars were shining with a blurry light. Okay, I'll go back first, Yang Dingtian said in his heart. Then, he tried to put the mystic meridian essence into the space ring. However, he found that he couldn't put it in, because it wasn't a real substance. However, it followed Yang Dingtian wherever he went. It was never more than a foot away from him. Therefore, Yang Dingtian took it back the way he came. When leaving the Sea of Energy cave, Yang Dingtian turned around and bowed. Senior of the Sea Serpent clan, although I don't know who you are, I'm very grateful to you. I will definitely make your Sea of Energy cave contribute to this world. Then, Yang Dingtian left the sea tomb and returned to the big crack. Yang Dingtian didn't return the way he came, because there was only such a huge crack. It was impossible to get lost. When he was flying up along the abyssal chasm, he passed by a cave and suddenly felt a bone-piercing coldness. Right now he is a saint. Furthermore, he has the 9 yang profound veins. It can be said that even the coldest unfreezing water, or the northernmost part of the world of ice and snow would not be able to do anything to him. But when he passed through the cave, he still felt a chill. This kind of coldness was not just a simple temperature, but also a kind of energy, a kind of extreme energy. Yang Dingtian could not help but enter the cave. Then he was completely stunned. This was an incomparably huge mine. A mine that looked like a crystal palace. Just like the Dragon King's crystal palace, it had unlimited treasures. For example, the profound ice-cold gold used to forge the Yin soul swords. Yang-type soul swords required bloody black gold. Although it was incomparably precious, it could still be harvested. As for Yin-type soul swords, the profound ice frigid gold was extremely rare. At the end of the day, it was because most of the human countries were fiery continents. As for the profound ice frigid gold, it could only be harvested from the bottom of the sea. Therefore, in this world, there were many treasured swords that used bloody black gold. Treasured swords that were forged with profound ice frigid gold were very rare. Usually in a mine, there were more than a dozen profound ice frigid gold. It was already considered very impressive. If there were dozens of them, it would be a once-in-a-century occurrence. And in this mine, how many profound ice frigid gold were there? There were countless of them. Perhaps there were hundreds, perhaps thousands, or even more. Why are there so many? It was very simple. This was a mine specially cultivated by the Sea Serpent Empire. It had been more than 10,000 years since it had been harvested, so naturally, there were countless of them. Moreover, these profound ice frigid gold were all over 10,000 years old. Young Dingtian continued to go deeper and deeper. There were still countless 10,000-year-old profound ice frigid gold. The deeper he went, the more he felt the terrifying chill. What did it mean to have so much profound ice frigid gold? It meant that young Dingtian could forge a Yin-type soul sword that was close to emperor grade. This was because young Dingtian had learned the fourth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, the great yin-yang art. At the same time, he had mastered the yin and yang dual energy. But this was not the end. The end was that young Dingtian could combine the yin and yang dual energy soul swords that were close to emperor grade into one, and become a chaos emperor grade soul sword. A chaos emperor grade soul sword completely existed in legends. In history, was there such a thing? Yes. Shiwu Piaoyan had a chaos emperor grade soul sword. This point was mentioned in the relevant records of the High Priest Association and New Naga. Moreover, before Shiwu Piaoyan went to the Naga Empire, he had written the fourth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, the yin-yang universe art. A few decades later, he had successfully forged a Chaos Emperor Great Soul Sword. Of course, when Yang Dingtian was learning the fifth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, the Great Space Art, Shiwu Piaoyan might have felt that this matter was not important, so he did not specifically mention it. Moreover, in the later stages, Shiwu Piaoyan did not seem to pay much attention to the combat power of the soul sword. This was understandable. For example, experts below the master level paid great attention to mystical skills. This was because mystical skills were far more powerful than martial skills. However, above the master level, experts of the great master level did not pay attention to mystical skills. Instead, they fought directly with martial skills. Of course, the soul sword was a game for experts above the great master level. If a great master cultivated a soul sword, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. He would be invincible among experts of the same level. Therefore, at that time, Shiman Wuya could defeat two great master level experts in a row with his soul sword. Even at the half-saint level and the saint level, the soul sword was still very powerful. However, at the peak of the saint level, the importance of the soul sword dropped sharply. At the demigod level, there was no such thing as a soul sword. This was because the highest C of chi of a soul sword was close to that of a demigod. It would never reach the demigod level. In this world, only the Naga Empire was a demigod. However, they were immortal, and their sea of chi would never become a sea spirit crystal. Therefore, when Shiwu Piaoyan became extremely powerful, he almost gave up on the soul sword. However, to the current Yang Dingtian, the soul sword was still extremely important. A Chaos Emperor grade soul sword that was close to the demigod level was more than just giving Yang Dingtian wings. It was much more powerful than him. Therefore, this batch of profound ice-cold gold was simply a gift from the heavens to Yang Dingtian. However, Yang Dingtian did not immediately collect them because they belonged to the Sea Serpent Empire. He had to get the consent of the Sea Serpent Empress before he could collect them. Therefore, Yang Dingtian left the mine and continued to fly up along the crack of the abyss. After flying for a few thousand miles, he returned to the ruins of the Devil Capital and then flew into the Sea Serpent Empire's palace. The Sea Serpent Empress saw the sea spirit crystal that was flying with Yang Dingtian at first glance and immediately revealed a complicated look. These were the ancestors of the Sea Serpent clan. It was because of these ancestors' burial at sea that the Sea Serpent clan's energy inheritance was endless and powerful. Now everything was over. Since you've already obtained the sea spirit crystal, you can go back and retrieve the fire spirit's body of the demon spirit demon fire, the Sea Serpent Empress said. Yang Dingtian hesitated for a moment and said with some difficulty, "Your Majesty, please forgive my greed. When I came up from the crack of the abyss, I found a mine with countless 10,000-year-old profound ice-cold gold. Can you give me everything? I'll use it to forge the Chaos Emperor grade soul sword." The Sea Serpent Empress looked at Yang Dingtian for a long time and did not speak. Naga Shuang said coldly, master of the Sea Serpent clan. Yang Dingtian is my husband. It can be said that he has the right to take everything from the Sea Serpent clan and the Mermaid clan for himself. These things were originally given to you by the Naga Empire. These words were really too overbearing. The Sea Serpent Empress bowed and said, yes. However, in the Sea Serpent Empress's heart, as long as they did not have sex, Yang Dingtian was just a mere human, not her master of Naga. However, Yang Dingtian did not collect it when he passed by the mine. Instead, he came to ask for her permission. She still had a good impression of this. There are only a few sea serpents left now, and they don't need those profound ice-cold gold anymore. Sir Yang Dingtian, go ahead and collect it, the Sea Serpent Empress said. Yang Dingtian bowed again to thank her. Then, he quickly flew back into the crack of the abyss. The jellyfish-like sea spirit crystal energy body followed him closely, never leaving his side. In the mine of the crack of the abyss, Yang Dingtian collected a total of 999 10,000-year-old, profound ice-cold gold. This was enough to forge a Yin-type soul sword that was close to the Emperor grade. If he went further, it would not make much sense to use more profound ice-cold gold. Yang Dingtian did not directly carry the 999 10,000-year-old, profound ice-cold gold back. Instead, he used the mystic fire to completely melt them into a piece and remove most of the impurities. After these 10,000-year-old profound ice-cold gold melted into a ball, they did not look like metal, but like blue crystals about a foot square. He would not forge the Chaos Emperor grade soul sword here. The Demon Fox High Priest was a soul sword master. Yang Dingtian needed to work with her to determine a plan. He put the 10,000-year-old profound ice-cold gold into the space ring. Yang Dingtian flew back to the palace in the ruins of the Devil Capital. Then he left the underwater world with the Vulture, the Naga Shuang, and Queen Poisa. The ancient Sea Serpent Empress stayed here and waited for Poisa to bring the ice spirit over. She would immediately take over the body and follow Poisa back to Cloud Sky City. After leaving the ruins of the Sea Serpent Empire, the Naga Shuang was still too slow. She stuffed Poisa and the Vulture into Yang Dingtian's space ring. Then, she held Yang Dingtian in her mouth and swam along the sea like lightning, returning to the human countries. She was really fast. Previously, Yang Dingtian had to walk for a few days and nights. She swam tens of thousands of miles in just one day. From the ruins of the Sea Serpent Empire, she arrived at the coast of the northwest mainland. Her speed at the bottom of the sea was comparable to flying in the air. Then, she flew into the air like lightning and flew towards Cloud Sky City. The sky was not dark yet. Yang Dingtian and the rest had successfully returned to Cloud Sky City. He had returned home. Chapter 11:23. This time, after being outside for more than 4 months, he finally returned safely. In fact, before returning, Yang Dingtian was very worried that he would see a scene of destruction. This was because there had been a huge change in the torn space. At that time, Little Western Paradise had also collapsed. Yang Dingtian was very worried that this would affect the movement cycle of Little Western Paradise, causing the border between Little Western Paradise and the First Dark Realm to be brought forward, and the opening of the Dark Crevice to be brought forward. If that was the case, the Demon King Su Yintian would enter the human countries in advance, and his Demon Fox army would invade. Then it would be over. Fortunately, none of this happened. Although the human countries were extremely nervous and on high alert, the destruction had not yet begun. Naga Shuang was not willing to land in Cloud Sky City. She was not willing to have any contact with humans other than Yang Dingtian, especially Yang Dingtian's wife. Therefore, she suggested to go to the First Dark Realm in advance. Yang Dingtian agreed. This had its benefits. If the Dark Crevice opened earlier, they would not be caught off guard. Therefore, he did not enter Cloud Sky City first. After leaving Vulture and Poisa, he brought Naga Shuang and continued to fly towards the world of ice and snow. Then, using the void-rending fire to cross the border of the abyss, Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang entered the First Dark Realm. There were less than 10 days before the Dark Crevice would open. This time, the Dark Crevice would open at the northeast corner of the First Dark Realm. It was about 1,700 miles away from the border of the second dark realm. Naga Shuang was waiting there. After bringing Shuang heir to the location, Yang Dingtian did not leave immediately. Instead, he used the soul sword to dig a comfortable stone room with a stone bed and table. Then he brought a lot of different clothes. When Naga Shuang saw that Yang Dingtian had prepared all this, her beautiful face twitched slightly, as if she had something to say. But in the end, she didn't say it. Then I'll return to Cloud Sky City first. I'll come back with the Sea Snake Empress in a few days, Yang Dingtian said. Okay, Naga Shuang said. She put on her golden dress and sat cross-legged on the stone bed. Yang Dingtian used his fastest speed to leave the first dark realm and return to Cloud Heaven City. After returning to Cloud Heaven City, Yang Dingtian didn't even have time to enjoy the bliss of a family reunion with his wife and children. The first thing he did was to enter the energy prison and take out a cold jade coffin. Inside was the 1,000-year-old ice spirit of the demon spirit Fiendish Flame. This body was at least at the peak of the saint level. Yang Dingtian handed the cold jade coffin to Queen Poisa and said, Shasha, I'm sorry. You've just returned home, and I have to ask you to leave again. Queen Poisa pursed her lips and smiled, saying, I'll be back quickly. Beside him, Spirit Vulture said, Husband, let me accompany Sister Sha. Yang Dingtian nodded. Then, Poisa and Vulture carried the ice spirit's jade coffin and flew towards the Southeast Sea at their fastest speed. At this time, the two of them were already saint-level experts. In about 3 or 4 days, they would reach the ruins of the demon capital and hand the ice spirit's body to the Sea Snake Empress. In fact, this body should be delivered by Naga Shuang. She was the fastest and could reach in less than a day. But now it was very difficult to command the most powerful race in history. After Poisa and Vulture left, Yang Dingtian immediately found the Demon Fox clan's grand priest, who had the deepest understanding of soul swords. Then, Yang Dingtian told her his key point. The Demon Fox clan's grand priest said, I have indeed seen some of Mr. Shu Piaoyan's works. It mentioned the theory of the yin-yang dual soul sword. However, none of these theories have been proven. Yang Dingtian said, I know that when Mr. Shiwu wrote these theories, it was actually to write the 4th stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, the great yin-yang art. The yin-yang dual soul sword is also a derivative theory of the great yin-yang art. However, after the completion of the 4th stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, Mr. Shiwu did succeed in forging a Chaos Emperor-grade soul sword. The Demon Fox clan's grand priest said, How did he do it? Yang Dingtian said, In the records, he first forged a Yin attribute soul sword that was close to the Emperor grade, together with the original Yang attribute soul sword that was close to the Emperor grade. Then, the two soul swords merged into one. The Demon Fox clan's grand priest said, That's it? That's impossible, right? Even if they merged into one physically, they can't merge into one energetically. Yang Dingtian said, In the new Naga's library, I saw Mr. Shiwu's records. He modified the Great Yin-Yang art into a soul skill, then used the soul sword version of the Great Yin-Yang art to modify the two soul swords. That's how the Chaos Emperor grade soul sword was created. The Demon Fox clan's grand priest said, This is possible? Grandmaster Su Yen is really a genius. Following that, the Demon Fox clan's grand priest said, But Yang Dingtian, I feel that you already have a sea spirit crystal that's close to a demigod. You can directly add it into your Yang-type soul sword. Your Naga royalty sword soul can not only recover, but its killing power will also be greater than before. I feel that there's no need to take the risk to forge this Chaos Emperor-grade soul sword. Yang Dingtian nodded and said, I know. However, to kill the Demon King Wentian, I have to use the Darkness Mystic Flame to tear open his sea of vital energy and cause his sea of vital energy to self-destruct. However, my cultivation is too low. The Darkness Mystic Flame is not enough to tear open the defense of the Demon King's sea of vital energy. I need to borrow the energy of the soul sword. Therefore, I need to combine the Darkness Mystic Flame and the Demigod Sword Soul into one. The Demon Fox clan's grand priest's eyes lit up and said, Is this what you thought of? Yang Dingtian nodded. The Demon Fox clan's Grand Priest was stunned and said, "This is completely a genius thinking. In theory, it can definitely succeed." Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "That's right. However, the Darkness Mystic Flame is unable to recognize the Soul Sword as its master. Therefore, when I guided the Darkness Mystic Flame into the Soul Sword, its first reaction was to devour all energy, including the Sea Spirit Crystal of the Soul Sword. Therefore, not only can it not release the Darkness Mystic Flame Sword Soul, it will also destroy the sea of vital energy of the Soul Sword." The Demon Fox clan's Grand Priest nodded and said, "That's right, it is indeed so." Yang Dingtian said, "If you want to change this situation, this Soul Sword must have a sea of vital energy with the Chaos attribute." Suddenly, the Demon Fox clan's Grand Priest's eyes lit up. "That's right. Once a certain energy entered the Chaos attribute, it would be zero. The Darkness Mystic Flame would also not devour it. In this way, the Darkness Mystic Flame could be guided into the Soul Sword and release the Darkness Mystic Flame's version of the Myriad Swords. Therefore, in this way, the forging of the Chaos Emperor Grade Soul Sword was inevitable." The Demon Fox clan's Grand Priest thought about the entire process many times. After that, she nodded and said, "In theory, this is completely feasible." Yang Dingtian said, "However, we need to write 2 scrolls in the meditation realm. One is the Soul Sword's version of the Great Yin Yang technique. The other is to guide the Darkness Mystic Flame into the Soul Sword and release the Darkness Mystic Flame's myriad swords." The Demon Fox clan's Grand Priest thought for a while and said, "The key is that the first scroll will take a very long time. The second scroll is very short. As long as we forge the Chaos Emperor Grade Soul Sword and guide the Darkness Mystic Flame into it, we don't even need to make too many changes to the myriad swords." Yang Dingtian said, "We have less than 10 days left. Is it enough?" Last time, Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox clan's myriad swords returned to origin took 10 days to modify the Naga royalty sword soul. And this time, it took less than 10 days. The Demon Fox clan's Grand Priest nodded and said, "It's enough. It's completely enough. Last time we struggled and stumbled. We didn't know how many unnecessary detours we took. This time, we don't need so much time at all." Yang Dingtian said, "All right, let's do it again. We'll use the martial wisdom of the God realm to create an even bigger miracle. Come," the Demon Fox clan's Grand Priest said. After making the decision, Yang Dingtian immediately used his fastest speed to head to the underground world of the Yin Yang Mirror. Then, he directly used the Million Spirit Demon Fire and 999 10,000 Year Profound Ice Cold Gold to forge a soul sword of the same grade that was close to the Emperor grade. However, it was different from Ma Chao. This was a Yin-type soul sword. Of course, this soul sword only had an outer shell. Then Yang Dingtian collected 1,000-mile Xian Vein essence under the Yin Yang Mirror. There were tens of thousands of Xian Vein essences. Yang Dingtian spent a few hours to guide them into the Sea Spirit Crystal that was close to the half-god grade. Instantly, a complete energy center was completed. The Xian Vein essence and Sea Spirit Crystal immediately started to circulate energy. Then, Yang Dingtian, like a sculpture, transplanted the Xian Vein essence into the Yin-type soul sword one by one. The Sea Spirit Crystal was transplanted into the sword hilt of the Soul Sword and became the Qi Si. Instantly, a Yin-type soul sword that was close to the Emperor grade was completed. Finally, Yang Dingtian used the Darkness Xian Flame to create an isolated space. Then in this space, the 2 soul swords completely melted and finally fused together. After fusing, the 2 soul swords became twice as thick. Yang Dingtian used the Xian Flame to attack. Hundreds of times, thousands of times, tens of thousands of times, hundreds of thousands of times. After countless crazy bombardments, the 2 Yin-type soul swords that were close to the Emperor grade instantly fused together. An Emperor grade soul sword appeared in front of Yang Dingtian. This was probably the only true Emperor grade soul sword in the history of the later martial arts civilization. Chapter 1124. Previously, Yang Dingtian's Yang Spirit Sword that was close to the Emperor grade was gold in color. and the newly forged Yin spirit sword that was close to the emperor grade was blue in color. Both swords were translucent. But now, after the two swords merged into one and became an emperor grade spirit sword, it became completely transparent and colorless. If one didn't feel it when holding it, it would seem like there was nothing. A Chao's spirit sword no longer had any xianqi, but now, it had a half-god spirit sea spirit crystal that was filled with dense xianqi. Of course, the most important thing was that it had a complete sea of qi. When the xianqi was depleted, it could absorb xianqi like a human and recover its battle xianqi. So in conclusion, Yang Dingtian's spirit sword was fully recovered and became even stronger. 10,000 swords returned to origin. Yang Dingtian ordered and controlled the spirit sword to use its spirit skill. As expected, it didn't move. Fly. Yang Dingtian controlled the spirit sword with his mind again, and it still didn't move. Don't worry, this result was within Yang Dingtian's expectations. Because the two swords were only merged physically, and they were still in the state of yin and yang. No one could control the other. So the spirit sword was completely useless, and had no fighting power. It was just an empty emperor-grade spirit sword. Of course, if Yang Dingtian used it to fight, in terms of xianqi and sharpness, it would be invincible. But the spirit sword was temporarily lost. It required Yang Dingtian and Demon Fox High Priest to write a spirit sword version of the Great Yin-Yang skill, and then control the Naga royalty spirit sword to use it, and baptize the spirit sword. At that time, the powerful Naga royalty spirit sword would return, and become even stronger. It would become a real Chaos Emperor-grade spirit sword. After Yang Dingtian finished forging the empty shell Emperor-grade spirit sword, he left the Yin-Yang mirror, and returned to Cloud Sky City. At this time, Demon Fox High Priest had been waiting in the depths of the energy prison for a long time, and the energy array was already prepared. Why was she in the energy prison? Because it was quiet here, and the energy field was stable enough. It was the most suitable place to enter deep meditation. In fact, the Fox Grand Priest had even taken off her clothes. However, Yang Dingtian was no longer as embarrassed as before when he faced her beautiful and alluring body. This group of people had completely exceeded the desires of men and women. The Demon Fox Grand Priest took the soul sword from Yang Dingtian's hands. Her beautiful eyes were filled with amazement as she said in a trembling voice, "Oh my God, what a beautiful sword! It's actually completely transparent." Then, she took a gorgeous bloody black gold sword from the side, and began to use the two swords to hack at each other. Whoosh! Almost silently, the bloody black gold sword in the Grand Priest Demon Fox's left hand broke into two. The Fox Demon Grand Priest did not seem to be satisfied. She held onto Yang Dingtian's Emperor-grade soul sword, and slashed it continuously. It was as if he was cutting straw, cutting the gorgeous bloody black gold sword into countless pieces. Yang Dingtian could not help but ask, "Miss Fox Demon, where did you get this sword?" The Fox Demon said, "This is my sword." Yang Dingtian took a look. It was not her sword. There was the Fox Demon Grand Priest's unique insignia on the sword hilt. He was speechless. He could not help but ask, "If you cut your own sword like that, what will you use in the future?" The Fox Demon Grand Priest said, "It doesn't matter. You can use the mystic fire to reforge it for me." That was true. However, everyone's weapon should be something they loved. To many people, it was even the other half of their lives. Was it really good to ruin one's weapon like that? Next, after keeping the Fox Demon Grand Priest's broken sword, the two of them began to talk about the main topic. The Fox Demon Grand Priest activated the energy barrier. This energy barrier spun rapidly. Yang Dingtian and the Fox Demon Grand Priest relaxed all of their spiritual defenses. Then the Fox Demon Grand Priest entered her own spiritual world. Then she began to guide Yang Dingtian in. In this rapidly spinning energy barrier, Yang Dingtian relaxed all of his defenses and fell into a deep sleep very quickly. Then he felt his spiritual energy shuttling back and forth continuously. It was as if he was shuttling through a space-time tunnel. Suddenly a door opened. The Fox Demon Grand Priest's beautiful face was revealed. She extended her hand towards him. Yang Dingtian walked through the door, and instantly entered the Fox Demon Grand Priest's meditation world. Just like that, layer by layer, the two of them continued to sleep and wake up in the spiritual illusion world. They entered the deepest level of the meditation world. Here it was still a familiar and comfortable room. It was almost exactly the same as the environment in the real world. Then, in the deepest level of the meditation world, the two of them began to write the soul sword version of the Great Yin Yang technique. They were about to enter the most difficult and complicated work again. But luckily, they had already completed this work once. The second time, it should be much easier. Of course, this required Yang Dingtian to completely memorize the code of the fourth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, the Great Yin Yang technique. And when Yang Dingtian was researching the realm of gods, he used the code of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Because this was the world's most outstanding martial arts civilization code, this code was deeply engraved in Yang Dingtian's mind. Of course, in this way, the Great Yin Yang technique would be completely open to the Fox Demon Grand Priest. But at this point it didn't matter anymore. Even if the Fox Demon Grand Priest memorized the entire code, she wouldn't be able to write the scroll of the Great Yin Yang technique. Because her celestial chi cultivation was completely insufficient. She wouldn't be able to support the energy required by the scroll. Moreover, without learning the first three stages, even if there was the fourth stage, it would be completely useless. Of course, Yang Dingtian still had to keep the most important greater space technique a secret. Just like that, the two of them began to devote themselves wholeheartedly to writing the new scroll. Time passed by day. In less than 4 days, Queen Poisa and Vulture had already returned to the ruins of the Devil capital. "Mother!" Queen Poisa shouted when they arrived at the palace of the Sea Serpent Empire. The Sea Serpent Empress immediately appeared, and her gaze fell on the ice jade coffin in front of Poisa. Poisa stepped forward and opened the coffin, revealing the ice spirit's beautiful and flawless body. Vulture couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "Wow! She looks very similar to Dongfang Bingling." Queen Poisa said, "The spirits of these heaven and earth mystic fires are originally formless. She can transform into anyone's appearance. Of course, once she transforms, she can't change her appearance. She will look like this for the rest of her life." At that time, this ice spirit read the image in Yang Dingtian's mind, so she turned into Dongfang Bingling. The Sea Serpent Empress stepped forward and felt the energy level of the ice spirit's body. The highest cultivation level was once at the peak of the saint level, but the talent of the body is even higher. The Sea Serpent Empress said, "It can almost carry all of my energy. This is indeed the body that suits me the most in the world." Then, the Sea Serpent Empress injected a stream of spiritual energy into the ice spirit's brain and said, "As expected, it is a brain energy body formed after devouring the souls of countless people. However, the soul that belonged to the demon spirit fire has been completely destroyed by Yang Dingtian. It is a completely empty body. It is very perfect." With that, the Sea Serpent Empress suddenly drilled into the body. The entire process of possession was very simple. She just had to enter. Then in the next quarter of an hour, the ice spirit in the ice jade coffin slowly opened her beautiful eyes. The perfect body of the ice spirit had recovered. She began to try to move her hands and feet. Her soul energy first controlled her entire brain, and then her brain controlled her entire body through her nerves. A few minutes later, her limbs and body began to feel inch by inch. After her entire body had completely regained consciousness, the Sea Serpent Empress stood up from the ice jade coffin and walked out slowly. Originally, the ice spirit's body was sparkling and translucent, almost without any blood. After being possessed by the Sea Serpent Empress, she immediately gained a sense of majesty and coquettishness. Her beautiful face became tender and alluring, captivating one's soul. She stretched out her hands, and Poisa took out a brocade dress and helped her mother put it on. Suddenly, the Sea Serpent Empress looked at Poisa and said, "Daughter, what are you going to do in the future?" Queen Poisa asked, "What do you mean?" The Sea Serpent Empress said, "Don't think that I can't tell your relationship with Yang Dingtian." Poisa said, "I just want to live with him." The Sea Serpent Empress said, "But there will be no result if you two are together." Poisa said, "Is it because of Naga Shuang?" She has nothing to do with me at all. She has the bloodline of a fallen black dragon. The Sea Serpent Empress said. It's not because of Naga Shuang. In fact, she and young Dingtian will not have a result. Once they mate, Naga will lose most of her power to transform young Dingtian's body. She will split her cultivation energy equally. Naga is extremely greedy for energy. She will definitely not bear to part with it. Poisa said. Then why did you say that there will be no result between him and me? The Sea Serpent Empress said. Because once you and he combine, a new Naga will be born. He will no longer allow a new Naga to be born. Vulture said. But he already has a child with the mermaid Queen Violets. One little Western paradise, one mermaid empire, and one human kingdom. The 3 demigod descendants are all young Dingtian's children, and they are in an absolute balance. Therefore, he really won't allow a fourth. Poisa was silent for a moment before saying. Furthermore, even though I keep saying that Naga Shuang has nothing to do with me, he has already avoided any intimacy with me. However, I don't care. When I said that we would live together, I meant that we would just live together. Nothing would happen. We would just treat each other as family. The Sea Serpent Empress said. But you have to inherit my Sea Serpent Empire. Poisa said. Mother, where is the Sea Serpent Empire now? The Sea Serpent Empress said. Just because there isn't one now doesn't mean there won't be one in the future. Poisa did not argue. She only shook her head and said. Let's go. It's a long journey. We have to go back. Time passed quickly. 8 days had passed, and the time for the battle with the Demon King was coming soon. Yang Dingtian, and the Demon Fox High Priest, had also woken up from their deep meditation. Chapter 1125. In fact, in the past 8 days, Yang Dingtian, and the Demon Fox Grand Priest had already woken up twice. Writing the Soul Sword version of the Great Yin Yang art was indeed much easier than they had imagined, because both of them already knew the difference between a soul sword and a human. Previously, in the deepest level of meditation, they had spent countless years writing the Sword Soul Simulator and the human version of the 10,000 Swords Return to Origin scroll. Therefore, Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest were already familiar with this kind of modification. In just 2 days in reality, Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest had completed the modification of the Great Yin Yang art. Of course, Shiwu Piaoyan also played a part in this. His scroll was simply too outstanding. It used the shortest code to complete the most energy conversion. Therefore, Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest woke up in just 2 days and wrote the Soul Sword version of the Great Yin Yang art. Of course, Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest could only complete the Soul Sword version. The two of them did not have enough energy to write the original version of the Great Yin Yang art for humans, because only God knew how much energy was needed to be stored in the scroll to help modify the cultivator's Xian meridians and Qi Si. The Soul Sword version of the Great Yin Yang technique scroll required much less energy to write. Why? Because the purity of the Emperor-grade Soul Sword Xian meridians was much higher than a human's, and the level of its Qi Si was much higher than a human's, and the strength of the Soul Sword's body was much higher than that of a human's. This Emperor-grade Soul Sword could completely rely on its own energy to complete the modification. Because of the extreme Yang attribute of the bloody black gold and the extreme Yin attribute of the mysterious ice gold, the entire Yin-Yang reversal process did not even require Yang Dingtian's Yin-Yang dual mysterious fire. Therefore, in just 2 days, Yang Dingtian completed the modification. Furthermore, the Demon Fox Grand Priest completed the entire spiritual writing of the scroll by herself. However, after waking up, the two of them were dumbfounded as they held the scroll that they had just written. That's right, the Soul Sword could also learn the scroll. As long as the owner and the Sword Soul's mind were connected, the Sword Soul could completely comprehend and learn the soul skill through the owner. However, the current situation was that Yang Dingtian's soul sword was an empty shell. A Chao's sword soul was still an infant. It was just learning how to speak, and was unable to communicate with its master on a deep level, much less learn any soul skills. Moreover, the Naga soul hidden in the soul sword had never appeared again after saving the Naga Shuang from the Empire of Darkness. It was as if it had been dormant forever. This meant that Yang Dingtian's soul swords couldn't do anything and couldn't learn the great yin yang art. Yang Dingtian and the fox demon priest did not know whether to laugh or cry. This was actually a very simple problem, and it was bound to happen. However, both of them were considered wise men, and there was bound to be a mistake. They had both overlooked this point. Then what should he do? There was still a way. Yang Dingtian's consciousness controlled the soul sword to complete the entire great yin-yang art. That's right, it was exactly the same as last time. Since the sword soul could not do it by itself, then Yang Dingtian would use his consciousness to control the soul sword Xian Qi and Qi Si to execute the great yin-yang art, complete the yin-yang reversal, and finally become the primal chaos attribute. In this way, he had to write another simulator. However, last time, it was Yang Dingtian's consciousness that controlled the soul sword to complete the soul skill. This time, it was Yang Dingtian's consciousness that controlled the soul sword to complete the great yin-yang art scroll that originally belonged to humans. Of course, Yang Dingtian and the fox demon had already changed it into a soul skill suitable for the soul sword. Therefore, the work was already more than half done. Next, he just had to write another simulator. He didn't even need to write it. He just had to make some modifications to the simulator that he and the fox demon priest had written previously. Hence, Yang Dingtian and the fox demon priest entered the deepest meditation world again and started to modify the original soul sword simulator. The so-called simulator was to use a human's consciousness to control the soul sword to execute the great yin-yang art scroll. It was still the same analogy, writing a simulator so that the Android phone could run computer games. This time, in the meditation world, the modification of the original simulator was even faster. It was completed in just a day in reality. Then, the simulator code and the soul sword version of the great yin-yang art were combined together to form a new scroll. It was done. So 3 days later, Yang Dingtian and the fox demon priest woke up for the second time. Yang Dingtian infused his Xian Qi and comprehended a new scroll. Then, he immediately used his consciousness to control this emperor-grade soul sword, and used the soul sword version of the great yin-yang art to change the attributes of the entire soul sword. The entire process was indeed very smooth and fast. At that time, Yang Dingtian was hovering between life and death when he cultivated the great yin-yang art. First, he used the Yin Xian flame to baptize his 9 Yang Xian meridians into Yin. Then it was reversed back to Yang. Finally, it completely fused into the primal chaos attribute. During the entire process, Yang Dingtian was in more pain than hell. He almost lost half of his life. Moreover, the entire process was completely deduced by the powerful energy in the scroll. Yang Dingtian no longer had the willpower and consciousness to complete it. As for the emperor-grade soul sword, whether it was its own energy, Xian meridians, or body, it was much stronger than Yang Dingtian. In addition, these two soul swords had the Yin and Yang dual attribute sword body. Therefore, in just 2 hours, the Yin and Yang reversal was completed. The moment it was completed, the entire soul sword suddenly bloomed with an incomparably bright light. Then countless powdery energy bodies burst out like resplendent fireworks. Immediately after, Yang Dingtian discovered that the soul sword in his hand had become several times lighter. It had changed from more than 100 jin to only a dozen jin. Moreover, the originally transparent soul sword was now even more transparent to the extreme. It was almost completely invisible in Yang Dingtian's hand. When the Naga royalty demon core's energy was exhausted, it had actually disappeared, leaving only a faint golden shadow. At this moment, the golden shadow of the Naga royalty demon core had completely disappeared and was replaced by the absolutely transparent offshore soul crystal. However, if one looked closely, the interior of the offshore soul crystal would faintly emit a golden light. The Yin and Yang dual attribute soul swords had not only merged into one from the body, but also from the sea of Qi and Xian meridians. Now, Yang Dingtian was holding a real Chaos Emperor-grade soul sword. Yang Dingtian tried to release the 10,000 ancestral swords. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, The first to shoot out was the original Naga royalty's 10,000 ancestral swords. It was still a golden Yang attribute sword soul. Then, Yang Dingtian's consciousness changed. What shot out was the blue 10,000 ancestral swords, which was a complete ice attribute sword soul. Almost instantly, the entire energy prison's temperature dropped to the extreme. This Naga royalty's golden 10,000 ancestral swords was much stronger than before. It was almost at the level of a demigod. Finally, Yang Dingtian used his consciousness to control the soul sword and released the 10,000 ancestral swords of the chaos attribute. It looked extremely shocking, but it did not have any lethality. In the future, the darkness celestial flame would be merged into the 10,000 ancestral swords of the chaos attribute. This way, the darkness celestial flame could directly use all its energy and become a demigod-level darkness celestial flame attack. Then Yang Dingtian entered his third meditation. This time, the two of them had to write how to merge the darkness celestial flame into the 10,000 ancestral swords of the chaos attribute. Of course, they could not directly guide it in. This scroll was very simple, but it was also very long. This was because Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest had to write the code themselves to complete this. They could not borrow any scrolls, nor could they modify the original scrolls. If Shiwu Piaoyan were to write the code to guide the darkness celestial flame into the sword soul of the chaos attribute, a few 100,000 codes would be enough. However, if Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest were to write it, they would need a few hundred codes. Finally, after 3 days, the two of them finished writing all the codes together. Then, the Demon Fox Grand Priest used her spirit and celestial chi to inscribe all the codes into the energy nephrite in the meditation realm. Then a direct and clumsy scroll was written. At this time, 8 days had passed. Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest woke up for the third time. Yang Dingtian comprehended the guiding scroll immediately. There were a lot of codes in this scroll, but it was actually very short. In just a moment, he had completely comprehended it. Success or failure depends on this moment. Yang Dingtian said, "Let's go out and experiment." The Demon Fox Grand Priest smiled and said, "For such a simple guiding scroll, we have used the most direct and clumsy method. If we still fail, the two of us should commit suicide." Then, the two of them left the underground prison of Cloud Sky City and returned to the surface. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath. Guide the darkness celestial flame. 10,000 ancestral swords. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Suddenly, countless dark sword spirits shot out from the soul swords. It was different from the Naga royalty sword spirits. Every shadow sword was very thin like a silk thread. Moreover, it was not even black. It was a kind of void that was extremely dark. It was as if there were countless black holes in the sky. Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest were extremely excited. They had succeeded. Not only had they successfully forged the Chaos Emperor grade soul swords, they had also completely merged the darkness mysterious flame with the sword spirits. They had killed the Demon King and obtained the final guarantee. Yang Dingtian could not help but say, "Martial Dao wisdom is the #1 productivity." The Demon Fox Grand Priest nodded. This god realm was too mysterious. They could completely rely on their own thoughts to modify the soul swords and martial techniques. It was indeed the god realm. After completing the Emperor-grade soul swords, Yang Dingtian did not stop, and immediately headed to the northernmost part of the world of ice and snow. This was because the ancient sea snake empress, who had taken over the ice spirit, was already waiting there. She was also unwilling to enter Cloud Sky City. There was less than a day before the final battle. Yang Dingtian and the sea snake empress entered the first dark realm and waited for the dark crack to open. I originally planned to update once, but in the end, I completed 2 updates. Chapter 11:26. Right now, it was less than a day before the opening of the Dark Crevice. In Little Western Paradise's time, in the past 5 months, Demon King Su Yantian still had complete control over Little Western Paradise. Previously, he had his evil spirit martial artists possess all the half-saints and saint-level punishers. Then, He possessed some of the saint-level Grand Priests. Apart from the Grand Priests rescued by Yang Dingtian, the entire Mount Buzhou had fallen. That day, although Yang Dingtian had destroyed the energy door of the Snow Mountain Castle, Su Yantian, who was fully aware of the energy attribute, immediately reopened the energy door in a short period of time. Nero and Demon Rage too did not leave with Yang Dingtian. Instead they stayed behind. Then in the past 5 months, Demon King Su Yantian had done a few things. First, he had his evil spirit martial artists possess all the Silver Palace Martial Arts Hall's experts. That's right, all of them. The Silver Palace Martial Arts Hall's experts who were directly under Chairman Nero's orders, 20 saint level and 50 half-saints, all had their souls destroyed by the Demon King. Then, they were possessed by the evil spirit martial artists. Speaker Nero could only watch as all of this unfolded before him. That was not all. Among the 9 great tribes, there was also a group of pure martial artists. There were about 20 to 30 saint-level martial artists who did not interfere with any political affairs. Most of them had their souls destroyed by Demon King Su Yantian and were possessed by the evil spirit martial artists. At this time, the Demon King Su Yantian had more than 70 saint-level experts under him. From then on, all the saint-level experts in Little Western Paradise, except for the Dark Wanderers, had fallen into the hands of Demon King Su Yantian. In Su Yantian's eyes, this group of Dark Wanderers was the easiest to be loyal to him. As long as they could devour the dark energy, they were willing to sell their souls to the devil. And he, Su Yantian, happened to have the void-rending fire. He could bring the Dark Wanderers to enjoy the strongest dark energy. However, to their surprise, this group of Dark Wanderers seemed to have completely disappeared. They were nowhere to be found in the entire Little Western Paradise. As for the Demon King Su Yanwentian, he had also put a lot of effort into the Dark Wanderer. He had more important things to do. He began to brainwash and rule the entire Little Western Paradise with violence. His left hand used force, and his right hand used theory. The theory he promoted consisted of 2 things. Firstly, the end of the Little Western Paradise was coming. The end of the Fox Demons was coming. Secondly, the Silver Dragon Temple was the savior of the Fox clan. Invading the human countries and occupying them was the only way. The Demon King's methods were crude and direct. It was to repeat his 2 theories 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. In his left hand were 70 Saint Evil Spirit Warriors, and a few hundred half-Saint Evil Spirit Warriors. In his right hand, he held the Fox Demon's Doomsday Theory and Salvation Theory. Under his control, Monster's Wrath II and Chairman Nero directly established the Doomsday Committee in the Joint Council. He, the Silver Dragon Temple's chairman, personally became the leader of the Doomsday Committee. With the support of Nero and Monster's Wrath II, and the suppression of the absolute power in his hands, the Doomsday Committee completely overthrew the Little Western Paradise's Joint Council and the 9 great tribes in a short period of time, becoming the highest authority in Little Western Paradise. Of course, there were definitely people who objected midway, and there were still many who objected. From the 9 great tribes to the Joint Council, there were people who objected. The Demon King Su Yanwentian's solution was simple and crude. He either killed them or destroyed their souls and took over their bodies. In this short period of suppression, Su Yanwentian's evil spirit warriors killed more than 100,000 fox demons. Among them, he took over the bodies of 3 tribe leaders and 17 small and medium-sized tribe leaders. After the Doomsday Committee controlled all the power in Little Western Paradise, Su Yanwentian forcefully passed the Little Western Paradise's temporary law of salvation. This was an extremely strict law, and it meant that Su Yanwentian had absolute power over the entire Little Western Paradise's fox demons. Then, Su Yanwentian reorganized the Silver Palace's Martial Arts Hall and the Snow Mountain Castle. He reorganized all the Sage and Half-Sage level powerhouses into the Doomsday Committee's patrollers. This patrollers, made up of dozens of Sage level and hundreds of Half-Sage level evil spirit powerhouses, had the absolute power to act first and report later. And the Little Western Paradise's temporary law of salvation had the highest authority, and it eliminated all opposition. In just a few months, the entire Little Western Paradise was completely slaughtered. One hand wielded force, the other hand wielded theory. Su Yan Wentian displayed political methods that far surpassed Neru and Monster's Wrath too. In just a few months, he became the supreme ruler of Little Western Paradise. On this point, Monster's Wrath 2 and Neru were very surprised. Originally, the two of them thought that Little Western Paradise was the most complicated world of power, and no one could completely unify the voice of Little Western Paradise. At that time, the Demon King was strong enough, but he still could not unify Little Western Paradise. Even if he did not die suddenly, even if he won in the end, he could not truly unify the entire Little Western Paradise. Because the independent forces of the 9 great tribes and hundreds of small and medium-sized tribes were a mess. According to Monster's Wrath 2 and Yang Dingtian's plan, it would take a few thousand years to completely unify Little Western Paradise, with the brainwashing of religion and the rise of the demigod demon sun. Monster's Wrath 2's plan was to complete the unification in a few thousand years. Unexpectedly, in just a few months, the Demon King, Su Yan Wentian, had completed this matter. Moreover, the people he killed were not even 1,000,000. Most importantly, this unification was not superficial, nor was it superficial. Instead, it was very solid. At that time, the collapse of Little Western Paradise had almost scared all the Demon Fox tribe out of their wits. Therefore, Su Yan Wentian's doomsday theory was accepted by almost all the Demon Fox tribe. Under the panic of this doomsday theory, the first ones to accept Su Yan Wentian, the Silver Dragon Temple Master, were most of the nobles and ordinary people. This group of people was the most fearful, the most uneasy, and the most lost. Previously, they believed in martial arts, but after being tricked by Yongxi, they believed in art and culture. This group of low-level Demon Fox tribe used to be mavericks, they did not care about anyone, and they pursued vanity and art. Originally, they thought that this group of people could not be conquered by anyone. Unexpectedly, the first to change sides were the low-level Demon Fox tribe, who made up the majority. In the beginning, they were only conquered. However, after thousands of brainwashing, this group of people became Su Yan Wentian's most ardent admirers. Su Yan Wentian had not reached the level of a demigod, but among this group of people, he quickly rose to the level of a god. As for the high-level Demon Fox tribe, although they were greedy, snobbish, and corrupted, they were smart enough. They would not blindly follow, nor would they believe in anything. Their only belief was profit. Therefore, when Su Yan Wentian established the Doomsday Committee to take over the Joint Council and the 9 great tribes, it was opposed and resisted by almost all the high-level Demon Fox tribe. However, this group of high-level Demon Fox tribe nobles, other than being smart and greedy, had another characteristic, and that was that they were afraid of death, seeking benefits and avoiding harm. Under Su Yan Wentian's bloody suppression, one by one, the high-level Demon Fox tribe nobles immediately fell to their knees and knelt down. Su Yan Wentian's strategy for Little Western Paradise was very clear. Martial arts and theories went hand in hand. Brainwash a group, rope in a group, and slaughter a group. Then the messy Little Western Paradise was straightened out. In less than half a year, the entire Little Western Paradise was completely in the hands of Su Yan Wentian. The thousands of evil spirit warriors that he sent out, after taking over the bodies of the Demon Fox tribe, joined the Doomsday Committee, the most powerful organization. Then from the bottom to the top, he seized all the power and armed forces of Little Western Paradise. At this time, Monster Rage 2 and Chairman Neru realized that this Demon King was the true political genius. He did not bother to understand the incomparably chaotic power structure of Little Western Paradise at all. He did not compromise or trade. He was direct, brainwashing, and violence, completely overturning the original power structure. Then, he used the evil spirit warriors, an absolutely loyal organization, to directly seize all the power of Little Western Paradise. All the low-level Demon Foxes worshipped him crazily, and they received many resources from Su Yan Wentian, becoming his beneficiaries and supporters. The high-level Demon Fox tribe nobles who opposed were immediately killed and taken over. Although there were still many opponents in this group, they did not dare to speak out at all. It was already very lucky to be able to keep their lives. Then, Naru and Monster Rage 2 realized that they did not seem to be of much use anymore. Sigh. The demon foxes of Little Western Paradise are too weak and ignorant. Demon King Su Yen Wentian shook his head and sighed. I originally thought that with their thousands of years of civilization, the joint parliament, and the arts and culture, they would definitely be much better than the human countries. I didn't expect them to be so stupid and weak, still a soft-footed sheep. In less than half a year, Demon King Su Yen Wentian, who had completely ruled Little Western Paradise, really had a feeling of loneliness. Devil Queen said, "Soon, it will be the human country's turn. Do you think the human countries will be so successful?" Demon King Su Yen Wentian said, "It's much more troublesome, because there are countless people in the human countries who are the beneficiaries and supporters of Yang Dingtian. The Middle Continent can easily take over the East Continent, and even during the Doomsday Battle, the people of the Middle Continent rebelled. The West Continent has no other choice. They are Yang Dingtian's most loyal followers. We can't give them more, so we can only kill them all." Devil Queen said, "Then, the West Continent will be divided into the demon foxes. Let the demon foxes and the human countries kill each other, and we will be the highest arbiters." "Yes," Demon King Su Yen Wentian said. "So this game is not interesting. Fighting against the god of chaos is the most interesting game. Becoming a god is an eternal victory." Devil Queen said, "Whether you succeed or not, I will always follow." Demon King Su Yen Wentian lovingly stroked Devil Queen's cheek. Devil Queen suddenly said, "Your Majesty, do you want me to give you half of the primeval evil spirit?" Demon King Su Yen Wentian shook his head and said, "You can't give it to me, because you can't separate your soul from the evil spirit." Then, the two of them became silent. Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian said, "In less than a day, we will be entering the human countries. Do you think Yang Dingtian will have a strong resistance?" Demon King Su Yen Wentian said, "Yes, he will. The strength of this person's will is hard to imagine. However, his fate has already been decided." Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian said, "Then, do you think it is possible for him to find the Nagadugu Shuang?" Demon King Su Yen Wentian suddenly became silent, and then said, "Of course I hope he can't find it. But any wise person will not deceive themselves and others. We have to prepare for the worst." Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian said, "Then what is the worst? If Yang Dingtian finds the Nagaduga Shuang and combines with her, sharing the demigod body, we will be completely helpless against him?" "No," Demon King Su Yen Wentian said. "No, the situation will not be so bad. Even if Yang Dingtian finds the Nagaduga Shuang, the two of them will definitely not be able to copulate." Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian said, "Isn't it said that the Naga are incomparably loyal to their partners?" "Yes, it is indeed so," Demon King Su Yen Wentian said. "The world only knows that the Naga are loyal to their partners, but they do not know the reason behind it. Because once the Naga and their partners copulate, they will share cultivation, life, and energy. Then can they not be loyal? Because there is no choice. Therefore, the so-called loyalty is not because of feelings, but because of reality." Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian was stunned. Demon King Su Yen Wentian sighed. "In this world, there is no such thing as true eternal feelings, only eternal benefits. For the Naga, energy is the only benefit. Because of feelings and eternal loyalty, that is not a myth but a fairy tale." Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian's expression changed slightly, and immediately said with a trembling voice, "Then the feelings between us are also not eternal loyalty?" Demon King Su Yen Wentian looked over, and said, "There are two kinds of feelings that can be eternal loyalty. The first is spiritual sustenance. For example, when a person completely falls into the dark hell, he will cling to the only light in his heart to represent that he is still alive. This light is his only spiritual sustenance. Knowing how to love is the only light I have. I have already fallen to the extreme. So my love for you has already become my only spiritual sustenance." Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian trembled. Demon King Su Yen Wentian's words did not only seem to be talking about him, but also about her. Devil Queen Su Yan Wentian said. Then what about the second kind? Demon King Su Yan Wentian said. The second kind is the will of one's self. Protection is a kind of will to protect one's loved ones from harm. This kind of love is not loyal, but it is also relatively eternal, unless his will collapses. This is Yang Dingtian's case. Queen Devil Queen nodded. The Demon King Wentian's words, although the reality was so cold that it made people shiver, was the truth. The so-called love came after the impulse between a man and a woman. It was either spiritual sustenance or the responsibility of guarding. The Demon King continued. And the Naga Duga Shuang doesn't have any of these two. The Naga's only instinct was their greed for energy. If Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang combine, it means that Duga Shuanger will lose half of her energy. Do you think she will do that? The Naga are greedy for energy. Losing 1/10 of their energy is like digging out their lifeblood, let alone half. Queen Devil Queen nodded. Demon King Su Yan Wentian said. But after I took over Yang Dingtian's body, it was different. Because I devoured for a full 200 years in the throne of darkness, the energy in my body has already surpassed that of Naga. So once I copulated with Naga Shuang, she became the beneficiary. Queen Devil Queen Su Yan Wentian said. So Yang Dingtian is doomed, right? Demon King Su Yan Wentian nodded. Yes, he is doomed. It is impossible for him to copulate with Naga. And it is impossible for him to have Naga's demigod body. It is impossible for them to kill me. And it is impossible for them to stop the invasion of the Fox army. So, even if he finds Naga Shuang, it is useless. And it will not change anything. Queen Devil Queen Su Yan Wentian sighed. This result is so realistic. Demon King Su Yan Wentian said. This world is incomparably realistic. If you can't recognize the original reality of the world, it is like walking with your eyes covered. You will either fall to your death, or be blind for the rest of your life. Queen Devil Queen Su Yan Wentian was completely silent, and did not speak. Yang Dingtian can't recognize the reality of this world, so he is destined to fall to his death. The outcome is already decided. Demon King Su Yan Wentian said word by word, as if he was passing judgment. Then, he suddenly flew tens of thousands of meters high in the sky, and waved his hand. The destruction is about to begin. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Instantly, countless figures soared into the sky like countless meteors. First, there were dozens of saint-level evil spirit experts. Then hundreds of half-saint-level evil spirit experts. Then, there were thousands of Demon Fox Clan's infinite Grandmaster experts. Then there were tens of thousands of Demon Fox Clan experts. Then, there were hundreds of thousands of high-level Demon Fox Clan warriors. Finally, there were millions of mid-level Demon Fox Clan warriors. And countless flying beasts. The Demon Fox army of millions completely filled the sky for hundreds of miles. It blotted out the sky and covered the sun. Although there were only a few million of them, they were completely a martial arts army. They were not something that the human country's crystal cannons and the like could resist. They were not undead, so they were not something that wireless lightning could resist. The lowest cultivation in this martial arts army was also a human martial venerable. Their strength was hundreds or thousands of times greater than that of the human countries. No matter how heaven-defying Yang Dingtian was, he would not be able to resist this powerful martial arts army. Moreover, the strongest among them were all evil spirit martial artists. Most of them had been brainwashed by the Demon King Su Yan Wentian, and had become the most fanatical advocates of destroying the human countries. Under the Demon King's brainwashing, they were filled with lust and completely regarded humans as ants, pigs, and dogs. Of course, the Demon Fox clan had always looked down on humans. At that time, Demon Li and later Demon Li too were all like this. Therefore, once they were allowed to enter the human countries, the outcome would be destruction. Queen Devil Queen said, I'll lead the army and enter the human countries. No. Demon King Su Yan Wentian said. Follow me through the dark crack and enter the first dark realm. If Yang Dingtian really finds the Nagaduga Shuang, we'll go and meet him together. Queen Devil Queen was shocked and nodded. Okay, I'll fight Yang Dingtian, you fight the Nagaduga Shuang. Chapter 1127. Devil Queen Dead Princess expression shook as she nodded and said, "All right, I will fight Yang Dingtian. You will fight Nagaduga Schwanger." Following that, the Infernal Queen Dead Concubine asked, "Can you win against the Nagas alone?" Demon King Su Yintian nodded, "Yes, I can. Naga needs a few thousand years to break through to demigod. The current Naga Duga Shui is at most invincible." Queen Devil Queen asked, "Then, is it possible for Yang Dingtian to find other powerful helpers?" Demon King Su Yintian did not directly answer Yang Dingtian's question. He said, "As long as you can't kill me, everything Yang Dingtian does is useless. As long as he doesn't mate with Naga Shui, his ending is already set." At this time, President Neru, Demon Rage 2, and the others flew to Demon King Su Yintian. These two were the commander and deputy commander of the Demon Fox Tribe's army. Demon King Su Yintian said, "When the door to the human countries is opened, you won't hesitate to attack, right?" Demon Rage 2 revealed a bitter smile and said, "We already have no other choice." Demon Rage and Neru indeed had no other choice, because they had lost control of the Demon Fox Tribe's army. All the half-saints and saints had been taken over by the evil spirit warriors. Most of the low-level warriors had been brainwashed by Su Yintian. They wholeheartedly wanted to destroy the human countries and take over the Vitality continent for themselves. They wanted to avoid the end of the Little Western Paradise. Demon King Su Yintian's gaze swept across Demon Rage 2 and President Neru. In fact, these two were not of much use now, and could be eliminated at any time. However, it did not matter if they were eliminated or not. Therefore, they lived on for the time being. "Let's go!" Demon King Su Yintian shouted. "Destroy the inferior human race. Long live the Demon Fox Tribe." Immediately, millions of Demon Fox Tribe's army shouted in unison, "Long live the Palace Master! Long live, long live!" Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Then, millions of Demon Fox Tribe's army flew toward the Skull Hall, like a dense cluster of stars. As long as the door to the human countries opened, millions of Demon Fox Tribe's army would surge into the human countries like a tide. Demon King Su Yintian and Queen Devil Queen flew toward the southwest. That was because the next crack of darkness was going to appear right there. Along the way, Yang Dingtian and the Sea Snake Empress did not talk. Of course, the current Sea Snake Empress had Bing Ling's face, and Yang Dingtian had once violated this body. However, at this moment, there was not much dissonance because the powerful Sea Snake Empress had already changed the appearance of her body. Now, she didn't look very similar to the Ice Spirit. First of all, the curves of this delicate body were even more curvaceous, rising and falling. All of the Sea Snake tribe had the figure of a devil, and the Sea Snake Empress was no exception. As for her face, it was gradually changing towards the original face of the Sea Snake Empress. From her previous ice-cold appearance, she had become noble and gorgeous. Even the light yellow sea snake scales on her neck were slightly protruding. She was really powerful. She had turned an energy body into a sea snake's body. Moreover, compared to the original appearance of the ice spirit, she seemed to be much more beautiful. The two of them quietly flew to the place where the dark crack was about to bloom. Yang Dingtian had already dug out a stone house in this place. Naga Shuang sat cross-legged on the stone bed, quietly meditating. Even though she was meditating, her beautiful face seemed to be filled with impatience. Along the way, when Yang Dingtian and the Sea Snake Empress flew side by side, he felt that she was completely radiant. After entering the stone house, he vaguely felt that the light of the Sea Snake Empress had instantly dimmed, and the faint golden light on Naga Shuang's body made it impossible to look at her directly. Seeing Yang Dingtian and the Sea Snake Empress enter, Naga Shuang opened her eyes and asked, "Husband, did you succeed?" "It's a success," Yang Dingtian said. Naga Shuang closed her beautiful eyes again. Yang Dingtian also found a place to sit down cross-legged. The Sea Snake Empress sat down cross-legged in the lower right corner of Naga Shuang. The three of them sat in a triangle, and in the middle was the place where the dark crack was about to bloom. Yang Dingtian, the Sea Snake Empress, and Nagaduga Shuang did not say a word. They were completely silent. Time passed by minute by minute. 6 hours later, Rumble. Sure enough, it came on time. The ground beneath young Dingtian began to tremble. The hard ground between the three of them began to tear open. It was as if there was a huge force that began to tear everything apart. This gap was getting bigger and bigger. Boom! In the end, the stone room that young Dingtian had dug was completely torn apart. The hard ground in the middle of the three of them completely collapsed, and a huge black hole appeared. The dark crack would bloom here. Although the drastic change in the torn space caused the little western paradise to collapse, its intersection with the first dark domain did not change, and it still opened on time. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but hold his breath. The final moment was about to arrive. At this moment, the Sea Snake Empress also opened her eyes and said, "Frost Master, after being turned into a fossil by Medusa, can you still be resurrected?" Nagaduga Shuang shook her head and said, "I don't know." The Sea Snake Empress looked at young Dingtian. "I heard that this Empress Medusa didn't die with the Great Nirvana, and she didn't completely destroy the Mermaid clan, right?" Yang Dingtian nodded. The Sea Snake Empress said, "Then where is she now?" "Soul Leaving Hall," Yang Dingtian said. The Sea Snake Empress said, "Where is the Soul Leaving Hall?" Yang Dingtian said, "I don't know. I want to find it too." The Sea Snake Empress said, "If you don't die in this battle, go to the Soul Leaving Hall. Remember to call me along." Yang Dingtian hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Nagaduga Shuang wanted to say something but hesitated. But in the end, she didn't say anything. Then, the three of them quieted down again, waiting for the dark crack to bloom. The time for the final battle was getting closer and closer. Another 6 hours passed. Boom! The ground began to tremble violently, as if there was a high-intensity earthquake. Yang Dingtian knew that this was the first dark realm, and the Little Western Paradise continent completely intertwined. Because the Little Western Paradise was considered the Vitality continent, and the first dark realm was the Death continent. When these two continents intertwined, the dark realm would instinctively devour the Death continent. Once this devouring began, the Abyss border would be born. Because no matter what kind of Abyss border it was the product of death-devouring vitality. Bang! Finally, the two continents were completely connected. The dark crack was born, and it bloomed. Almost instantly, a small abyss border was born between the two continents. This abyss border was only slightly bigger than a door. It began to devour crazily. It devoured and disintegrated the land at the border of the Little Western Paradise inch by inch, turning it into the abyss border. And on the first dark realm side, the mysterious light, unique to the abyss border, seeped out bit by bit. A powerful energy suddenly rushed out of the dark fissure. This meant that the Little Western Paradise and the first dark realm had been completely connected. As long as the void-splitting fire was used to purify the temporary abyss border in the middle, they could travel back and forth. In other words, the Demon King Su Yentian was about to come out. At the bottom of the southwest territory of the Little Western Paradise, the Demon King and the Devil Queen were at the entrance of the darkness, watching the complete formation of the abyss border. The dark crack had completely bloomed, and they could directly go to the first dark realm. The Demon King Su Yentian directly released the void-splitting fire. The Devil Queen suddenly said, "Your Majesty, I feel a little uneasy." This line was very familiar. At that time, Prince Li Ming had once said this. When the dark crack bloomed, and the first dark realm was about to go to the Little Western Paradise, Prince Li Ming said the same thing. But the Devil Queen directly mocked him, saying that he was timid and cowardly. And so, the Devil Queen, Prince Li Ming, and the others directly passed through the abyss border and entered the Little Western Paradise. Then, all the people of the evil ways were caught. Prince Li Ming was dead. Now the Devil Queen felt uneasy. The Demon King Su Yentian smiled and said, "It's okay. The worst result is nothing more than Naga Shuang returning, but that still can't change Yang Dingtian's ending." The Devil Queen said, "But this intuition of uneasiness is very accurate. Li Ming felt uneasy first, and then died." The Demon King Su Yentian said, "You think too much. Your uneasiness might come from other things, and not our ending today. Next, the Demon King didn't hesitate at all. He was extremely sure of the outcome. He directly placed the void-splitting fire into the temporary abyss border in front of him. This temporary border was very far away and very small. In almost a moment, it was completely purified into a transparent crystal by the void-splitting fire. Let's go. When he pulled the Queen Devil Queen, the two of them directly jumped into the purified abyss border. And so, the Queen Devil Queen once again felt a strong sense of space-time travel. However, this abyss border was very short after all. So in just a moment this travel ended. The Demon King Su Yantian and the Queen Devil Queen passed through the dark crack and arrived at the first dark domain. Whoosh! The two of them suddenly flew out of the crack. Then, they saw Yang Dingtian, Naga Duga Shuang, and the Sea Snake Empress at first glance. Seeing the three of them, the Demon King wasn't surprised at all. Instead, he said, "It seems that it's right to prepare for the worst. This way, there won't be any surprise or disappointment." Then, the Demon King bowed deeply to Naga Shuang and said in a stunned tone, "Greetings, Your Excellency Naga Duga Shuang." Naga Shuang nodded at her. The Demon King looked at the Sea Snake Empress and thought for a while before saying, "If I'm not wrong, Your Excellency is the Empress of the Sea Serpent Empire?" "That's right," the Sea Snake Empress said. The Demon King Wentian said to Yang Dingtian, "Yang Dingtian, is that all your people?" Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "Yes, that's all." The Demon King said, "All right then, let's begin. Let's begin." Chapter 1128. The Naga Shuang, the Sea Snake Empress, the two of them against the Demon King. The Queen Devil Queen looked at Yang Dingtian. "Then you're mine. Let's begin." "Sure." Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian slowly pulled out his Chaos Emperor Great Soul Sword. The Naga Shuang turned into a golden light and rushed into the sky. Roar! With a shocking roar, the Naga Shuang transformed into its Naga form. Its body was hundreds of meters long. It was shining with golden light and didn't look like a Naga. It looked like a giant dragon. The Sea Snake Empress was right. Naga was the descendant of the fallen divine dragon. It was just that it wasn't born with the help of sea snakes and mermaids. This hundreds of meters long dragon-like Naga Shuang soared in the sky. An earth-shattering pressure enveloped them. Those with slightly weaker cultivations would have immediately collapsed under this pressure. Even the Demon King's eyes twitched, and his expression changed slightly. Even if the Naga hadn't broken through to the demigod realm, it was still a demigod race. This kind of powerful energy field completely made people tremble. Whoosh! The Naga Shuang suddenly spat out a ball of golden energy. This ball of energy was almost exactly the same as its own cultivation. Boom! This ball of energy suddenly shot to the ground. A huge golden energy barrier suddenly opened up. This energy shield had a radius of over 10,000 meters and completely enveloped the 5 people present. The Demon King had the Chaos Emperor armor, so if the battle was unfavorable, he could immediately flash away. With this powerful energy shield, no one could leave the battlefield unless the Naga Shuang completely exhausted its energy. Seeing this scene, the Demon King's gaze began to tremble. Then, he slowly pulled out a sharp sword and stared at the Sea Snake Empress. He wouldn't attack the Naga, because it would be a waste of energy. A fully transformed Naga already had an immortal and indestructible body. As long as the Sea Snake Empress was eliminated, the Naga Shuang would run out of energy and retreat. Of course, if Naga did not retreat by then, they would inevitably become his prisoners. Tisk! The Demon King suddenly roared. Whoosh 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 whoosh. His body abruptly split into dozens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. Then, tens of thousands of Demon King, holding sharp swords, crazily shot towards the Sea Snake Empress. The doppelganger technique was not a heaven-defying profound skill. It consumed profound chi, and the results were not good. It was equivalent to expending 4 times the amount of profound energy to produce 2 times the attack. However, with a second great evil spirit, a sea of chi that was close to that of a demigod, and the terrifying Chaos Emperor armor, the doppelganger technique became incomparably terrifying in the hands of the Demon King. This was equivalent to expending 20,000 Xianqi attacks to create 10,000 Xianqi attacks. These 10,000 attacks all landed on the Sea Snake Empress's body. Swish, 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 swish. The Sea Snake Empress's figure was suddenly surrounded by tens of thousands of demon kings, and then attacked crazily. Almost in the blink of an eye, the Sea Snake Empress's body was shattered into ashes. Though, the ice spirit's body that he had obtained with great difficulty was instantly shattered. The ancient Sea Snake Empress was so powerful, but she was still unable to withstand a single blow from the Demon King. However, at this moment, a ray of light suddenly shot out from Yang Dingtian's spatial ring. It was Vulture, the most powerful celestial spirit master Vulture. Even though she had already broken through to the saint level, this battle was still too dangerous for her. However, it was very likely that she would be needed in this battle, so she was thrown into the spatial ring. Whoosh! Vulture controlled the celestial spirit master's talent and instantly condensed the Sea Snake Empress's body. This was an energy body that had been shattered countless times. As long as it did not turn into ashes, it could immediately condense and revive. In the blink of an eye, the Sea Snake Empress was immediately revived with full health. After Vulture finished its resurrection, it immediately returned to Yang Dingtian's spatial ring. Vulture, this celestial spirit master, was really a heaven-defying bug. When the Demon King saw this, his expression changed drastically. This fucking, how long would this fight take? Then, his gaze immediately turned towards the Queen Devil Queen. It was very simple to stop Vulture, just take down Yang Dingtian. Queen Devil Queen nodded and sneered. Yang Dingtian, you guys are very despicable. 4 of you fight the 2 of us. Yang Dingtian sneered, and said a sentence that the villains in the TV series of the future often said. There's no need to talk about the morality of the pugilistic world, with a group of evil demons like you. Everyone attacked together. Unfortunately, Wen Tian transmigrated too early, and had not watched martial arts TV series. He did not understand Yang Dingtian's joke. This cold humor was blind. Queen Devil Queen said again. Yang Dingtian, you should know that ever since I demonized, I have never really made a move against you. Otherwise, with your weakness, you would have died long ago. Yang Dingtian said. I know. Queen Devil Queen said. Because I have only demonized and fallen, but my will and soul are still Piao Ling of nothingness. I still pity you in my heart, and am not willing to hurt you. However, the moment you executed Li Ming, this pity and sympathy completely disappeared. From now on, I will not show mercy to you. Understood, Yang Dingtian said. Queen Devil Queen said. The last time you escaped, it has already been 5 months. I want to know how much your cultivation has broken through. It seems like you have broken through to the Saint Realm. However, this is meaningless. The difference between the Saint Realm and the Saint Realm is like heaven and earth. Yang Dingtian frowned and said. Enough, Devil Queen, don't say any more. Let's fight. Courting death. Queen Devil Queen roared. Her whole person suddenly turned into a purple flowing light, and shot towards Yang Dingtian like lightning. Yang Dingtian stomped his foot, and the ground under his feet instantly collapsed. His figure suddenly transformed into a snow-white stream of light, as he charged at the infernal queen. They were all ruthless people. The moment they made a move, it was like they wanted to perish together. The 2 streams of light instantly collided with each other. Boom! It was like a comet colliding with the earth, and also like a nuclear bomb exploding. With a loud sound, an incomparably bright white light, shining for thousands of miles, and an earth-shattering energy suddenly shot out. Boom, 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 boom. The hard ground in the surrounding tens of thousands of meters seemed to have been plowed, crazily torn apart and collapsed. Yang Dingtian and Devil Queen, after fiercely colliding, separated like lightning. After landing, Devil Queen suddenly staggered and spat out a mouthful of blood. Yang Dingtian did not retreat half a step, but there was some blood at the corner of his mouth. Queen Devil Queen was incomparably shocked. Even Yang Dingtian, who had broken through to the Saint Realm, could not withstand her shocking attack. Although he would not die, his Xian veins would immediately be torn apart, and his cultivation would be completely crippled. Even their souls would be shaken to the point that they would be reduced to nothing more than a walking corpse. This way, it was just enough for the Demon King to devour. As for his Xian veins and body being destroyed, it did not matter. As long as the first-class evil spirit was transplanted into his body, not only would he recover to his original state, his body's cultivation would also be much stronger. Of course, if the first-class evil spirit was removed from Wulingshi's body, he would die. But who cared? Now that the evil ways had countless Saint Realm experts, what was a mere Wulingshi? But she did not expect that not only did Yang Dingtian not become a cripple, he was not even injured. On the contrary, Queen Devil Queen herself vomited blood, her internal organs were displaced, and she was seriously injured. Of course, the primordial evil spirit almost instantly healed her injuries, but that mouthful of blood still spurted out. What did this mean? It meant that Yang Dingtian's cultivation had surpassed her Queen Devil Queen. How was this possible? 5 months ago, Yang Dingtian did not even break through to the Saint Realm. In just 5 months, not only did he break through to the Saint Realm, but his cultivation had also surpassed her? How was this possible? Queen Devil Queen had reached the limit of her cultivation, the 24th level. Of course, Yang Dingtian was also at the 24th level, but the Chaos Emperor Grade Soul Sword in his hand had an extremely terrifying Xian Qi bonus. So he suppressed Queen Devil Queen. Queen Devil Queen stared at Yang Dingtian's face and said, "You have already gathered with Naga? Shared her cultivation?" Yang Dingtian did not answer, because if he did, it would provoke Naga Shuang. However, even if he did not answer, it still provoked Naga Shuang. Originally, Naga Shuang was crazily attacking, tearing apart the Demon King's countless clones. Hearing Queen Devil Queen's words, her body trembled, and she stopped attacking for a moment. Seeing this scene, Demon King, who was fighting bitterly and desperately chasing after the Sea Snake Empress, was delighted. Naga did not truly combine with Yang Dingtian. To a large extent, this meant that she had betrayed her feelings. Her greed for energy exceeded her love for Yang Dingtian. In this way she might feel guilty, and the guilt of a powerhouse was very terrifying. Once a peerless powerhouse felt guilty, they would not think of a way to make up for it. Instead, they would completely erase the thing that made her feel guilty. In this way, she would not have to feel guilty and could feel at ease. After pausing for a moment, Naga Shuang continued to destroy Demon King's clones. And Demon King was still crazily attacking the Sea Snake Empress. Queen Devil Queen wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said coldly, "How terrifying is it to break through to the 24th level without mating with Naga? We actually raised such a big opponent. Our no-kill order almost caused us to fall into a desperate situation. Don't worry, even if I have to risk my life to prevent Demon King from possessing me, I won't let you leave. Even if I have to tear you into pieces and kill you completely." Queen Devil Queen raised her jade-like hand, and her magic staff flying sword slowly floated up. "Yang Dingtian, your Naga royalty sword soul is gone, right? Your Naga royalty demon core has already exhausted its energy," Queen Devil Queen said. "In fact, I can't even feel any profound chi energy in your soul sword." Yang Dingtian nodded. Anyone could see that the hilt of his soul sword was absolutely transparent. There was no sign of the Naga royalty demon core. As for the Devil Queen not being able to feel any energy in Yang Dingtian's soul sword, that was because of the chaos attribute. Of course, there would be no energy perception. Queen Devil Queen continued, "My soul sword has been cultivated for more than 200 years. Its cultivation is completely on par with mine. Can you fight against 2 24th level saint level experts? Today, your ending is already decided. Finished." Queen Devil Queen's expression suddenly became gloomy and cold. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Countless blue sword souls shot out from the Devil Queen's undead concubine's soul sword. Thousands, tens of thousands of cold sword souls covered the sky and covered the earth. 24th level sword soul. And at the same time, Queen Devil Queen's body once again turned into a stream of light and shot towards Yang Dingtian. Mixed in with the countless sword souls, she was like a meteor. Yang Dingtian stood in place motionless. His Chaos Emperor Great Soul Sword floated into the air. It flew very slowly, without any 10,000 swords returned to origin soul technique. It just flew over slowly, and Yang Dingtian flew very quickly, turning into a shocking light, once again colliding with the Devil Queen. Boom! With a loud bang, the Devil Queen and Yang Dingtian once again collided crazily, and the Devil Queen's 24th level sword soul, Countless Blue Hard, shot crazily on Yang Dingtian's soul sword. Dang 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 dang. In an instant countless sword souls shattered. In the air, they turned into countless green lights, and fell one after another. The scene was resplendent and beautiful. All the 10,000 swords returned to origin sword souls shattered. In the end, only the real soul sword was left, the sword that the Devil Queen regarded as her life, the 24th level magic staff soul sword. Yang Dingtian's Chaos Emperor Great Soul Sword still flew over slowly, gently hitting the Devil Queen's soul sword. Ding! In an instant the jade shattered. Chapter 1129. Yang Dingtian and Queen Devil Queen directly collided with each other. Once again it was like a nuclear explosion. This time, Yang Dingtian did not have the support of his profound qi. Both of them directly flew out, vomiting blood in the air. The cultivation of the two could be considered to be about the same. Queen Devil Queen and the primeval evil spirit reached the limit of cultivation, which was exactly the same as Yang Dingtian's 9 Yang profound veins. At the same time, the two people's soul swords also lightly collided with each other. Ding! The soul sword that Queen Devil Queen treasured like her life was completely shattered just like that. It was lightly hit by Yang Dingtian's soul sword and shattered. It turned into countless blue powder, and completely turned into ashes. Queen Devil Queen was completely stunned. How is this possible? Yang Dingtian's soul sword was very high grade. Queen Devil Queen was very clear about this. But even so what? The soul sword in her Nihility Piaoling's hand was also very high grade. How could her soul sword be completely shattered with a light touch? How is this possible? Queen Devil Queen flew out a few thousand meters, and crashed into Naga Shuang's energy wall, and fell to the ground. She stared blankly at her soul sword, shattered into pieces, and was completely stunned in an instant. This soul sword had accompanied her for countless years. From Nihility Piaoling to Queen Devil Queen, it had never left her. This was almost another life of hers, and now it was shattered just like that. Yang Dingtian gently put it away. Immediately, this soul sword flew back to Yang Dingtian's hand like lightning. Queen Devil Queen was stunned for a long time and asked, What kind of soul sword is this? Yang Dingtian. Primal Chaos Emperor Great Soul Sword. Impossible, the Queen Devil Queen roared. There is no such thing as a true Emperor Grade Soul Sword in this world. Yang Dingtian. Yes, but you haven't seen it before. Your ancestor, Shiwu Piaoyan, forged the first Primal Chaos Emperor Grade Soul Sword, and mine is the second. Don't talk to me about her, the Queen Devil Queen said sternly. Then, she looked at the Sovereign Grade Soul Sword that had already disappeared. Suddenly she said, Can you let me see your Sovereign Grade Soul Sword? Whoosh! With a thought from Yang Dingtian, the soul sword flew out and landed in the hands of the Queen Devil Queen. Queen Devil Queen looked at this soul sword with incomparable intoxication. It's so light. I've never held such a light sword before. Queen Devil Queen said. Only 19 kilograms. Yang Dingtian. It was forged with 999 pieces of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold, and 999 pieces of 10,000-year-old profound ice gold. Nearly 100,000 kilograms, but only 19 kilograms. The Devil Queen held it in her hands and looked at it carefully. The whole sword was completely transparent, as if it didn't exist at all. There was no sword more beautiful in this world. The Queen Devil Queen continued. Isn't the Naga royalty demon core out of energy? Yang Dingtian. I found a sea soul crystal, a demigod sea soul crystal. The Devil Queen didn't have any expression, but the Demon King Su Yan Wentian trembled slightly when he heard this. A demigod sea soul crystal, which meant a demigod sword soul. His cultivation base was close to that of a demigod. Coupled with the Chaos Emperor armor, He might be able to fend off 2 demigods, but not 3. The Demon King Su Yan Wentian was finally a little frightened at this time, and wanted to escape. However, a radius of tens of thousands of meters had been completely covered by the Naga energy shield, and there was no way out. Yang Dingtian looked at the Queen Devil Queen's beautiful face and said, "Senior Nihility, you are not only a member of my Nihility clan, but also the teacher of my wife Dongfang Bingling. It's not too late for you to turn back now." "Turn back? How can I turn back?" The Queen Devil Queen said. "Just surrender without putting up a fight." Yang Dingtian, "I won't force you to kill the Demon King, and I won't force you lovers to kill each other." The Queen Devil Queen shook her head and sneered. "I can't turn back, I can't turn back." After saying that, her face suddenly became distorted. Boom! 2 terrifying masses of chaos-level profound flames suddenly burst out from her body. Great Yin Yang technique, mystical fire lightning. She also knew Nihility Piao Ling. The Queen Devil Queen injected her 24th rank cultivation base into the 2 chaos Yin Yang mystical fires. Then the 2 mystical fires collided. Boom! The entire energy shield erupted with light countless times brighter than the sun, as if a nuclear bomb had exploded again. The 24th rank powerhouse used all her energy to create mystical fire lightning. The Devil Queen only had one goal: destroy Yang Dingtian's Chaos Emperor Grade Soul Sword. If there were more above the 25th rank, then the Queen Devil Queen's mystical fire lightning had reached the 27th rank. She knew that Yang Dingtian's Chaos Emperor Grade Soul Sword would bring a lot of trouble to the Devil Queen. Therefore, she used all her strength to destroy this soul sword. The mystical fire lightning fiercely struck the soul sword and the Queen Devil Queen's own body. In an instant, the Queen Devil Queen's entire body turned into ashes. Only the soul, chi-si, mystical veins, and heart that were wrapped by the evil spirit of the primordial beginning were left. The evil spirit of the primordial evil spirit quickly restored her body. After the light dissipated, the Queen Devil Queen saw that Yang Dingtian's Chaos Emperor Grade Soul Sword was still floating in the air intact. Not to mention being destroyed, there was not even a trace left. Yang Dingtian gently waved his hand, and almost instantly, the Emperor Grade Soul Sword appeared in Yang Dingtian's hand. If it's so easily destroyed, can it still be considered an Emperor Grade Soul Sword? Yang Dingtian sneered. At this time, the Queen Devil Queen's body had no more mystical chi energy. Her mystical fire lightning just now had exhausted the last of her energy. Originally, Yang Dingtian could kill her now. He could directly use the dark mystical fire sword soul to tear open her chi-si and make her chi-si explode. However, Yang Dingtian did not do that. Firstly, he did not want to kill Nihility Piao Ling now. Secondly, the dark mystical fire sword soul was used to deal with the Demon King Su Yantian. The mystical chi in the sea spirit crystal chi-si could not be wasted at all. If it was not enough to tear open the Demon King's chi-si in the end, it would be a tragedy. The Queen Devil Queen had already lost all of her fighting strength. Next, it was the Demon King who was fighting alone. The Demon King Su Yantian had been using countless clones to chase after the Sea Snake Empress. However, after Yang Dingtian defeated the Devil Queen and displayed the Emperor Grade Soul Sword, the Demon King Su Yantian knew that he could not be kind today. The 3 experts who were close to the demigod realm could already destroy his Chaos Emperor armor. This was absolutely intolerable, because the Chaos Emperor armor was equivalent to his second life. Without him, the Demon King would not be able to flash hundreds of miles. Therefore, he made a prompt decision and immediately let go of the Sea Snake Empress. His entire body flashed towards Yang Dingtian like a ghost. This game had become no longer fun, so it had to end immediately. Therefore, the Demon King had to capture Yang Dingtian as soon as possible. As long as he caught Yang Dingtian, this battle would be over. Whoosh! The Demon King, who was wearing the Chaos Emperor armor, moved like lightning. It was completely impossible to catch or stop him. Even the Naga Shuang did not have such a fast speed. However, he was unable to catch Yang Dingtian. Instead, he directly collided with the other energy wall. This transparent energy wall completely separated Yang Dingtian and the Demon King. It was still the energy barrier of the Naga Shuang. What was so terrifying about Naga? It has the same cultivation level as you, and can release the same level of attack. However, the energy stored in her energy reserve is several times more than yours. Moreover, she has any type of profound chi energy, and she is born with an immortal and indestructible body. She can have as many energy shields as she wants. The Demon King could not rush over, could not catch Yang Dingtian, and could not kill Yang Dingtian. He could only continue to attack the Sea Snake Empress crazily. The Sea Snake Empress was no match for him at all. Almost every minute, she would be killed by the Demon King, and be completely shattered. However, Vulture always came out in time to revive the Sea Snake Empress. Again and again. The first time she revived the Sea Snake Empress's soul energy from the shattered fossil, she exhausted all of Vulture's cultivation. However, Vulture had already broken through to the saint level, and was completely different from back then. Moreover, because she was stored in Bingling's body, the Sea Snake Empress's energy was not as strong as it was in the ruins of the Devil Capital. Therefore, Vulture could revive her again and again. Thus, Devil King Su Yintian found himself in a tragic situation. There was no way to continue this battle. Fight Naga? What's the use? She's even more immortal than you, unless you exhaust all of her energy. However, do you want to completely exhaust the energy of a Naga? Or a Naga that has completely transformed? Please help. She has the same cultivation level as you, but her energy reserve is many times larger than a human's, and the energy stored is many times larger. That day in the Empire of Darkness, before it had completely transformed, the Naga Shuang had killed countless dark dragons and dark dragons. Now you want to compete with her in profound chi? Don't joke around. Then, it would be good to kill the Sea Snake Empress. At least, this way, he wouldn't have to be attacked by two experts who were close to demigod, and he wouldn't have to worry about the Chaos Emperor armor being destroyed. His cultivation level could just offset the Naga Shuang's, so that her attacks wouldn't be completely absorbed by the Chaos Emperor armor. But the existence of the Celestial Spirit Master Vulture was like a bug, reviving the Sea Snake Empress countless times. Who asked the Sea Snake Empress to be an energy body from her body to her soul? Why don't you Vulture revive Yang Dingtian? Again and again, he revived the Sea Snake Empress. As a result, the Sea Snake Empress completely stopped defending, and used all her strength to attack his Chaos Emperor armor. As for the Naga Shuang, she was crazily destroying his clones, and destroying his Chaos Emperor armor's defensive energy. It was a pity that Wentian had never played video games before. Otherwise, he could almost feel that his Chaos Emperor armor's health bar was constantly decreasing. As long as the health bar was empty, the Chaos Emperor armor would explode. Once the Chaos Emperor armor exploded, it would be the time for Yang Dingtian's Dark Mystic Fire Sword Soul to attack. The Demon King was completely powerless to stop it. He was about to be completely miserable. Chapter 1130. Demon King Su Yintian, who deeply understood this point, immediately gave up the meaningless battle. He immediately used all his strength to frantically attack Naga's energy shield, preparing to escape. Moreover, he wanted to directly capture Yang Dingtian, and then escape. Boom! Boom! Demon King Su Yintian, almost crazily, attacked the energy shield. As long as the energy shield was broken, no one in the world could stop him from leaving. However, the thickness of Naga's mystical chi was the same as the thickness of Naga's energy shield. Perhaps, when Demon King Su Yintian's mystical chi was completely exhausted, the energy shield would not be broken. Queen Devil Queen on the side, desperately swallowed mystical gathering pills, then sat cross-legged on the ground to recover her battle mystical chi. After a full quarter of an hour, Demon King Su Yintian had already hit the energy shield thousands of times, but it did not budge at all. At this time, Queen Devil Queen's mystical chi energy had completely recovered. She first glanced at Yang Dingtian, then said to Naga Shuang, "Let me go, I want to live and die with Demon King." She was straightforward. After knowing that she was not Yang Dingtian's opponent, she immediately gave up the battle with him, and ran over to fight side by side with Demon King Su Yintian. Naga Shuang glanced at Queen Devil Queen, but did not respond. In fact, the Nagas were extremely snobbish. They completely ignored humans like the Devil Queen and the dead concubine. Queen Devil Queen's figure suddenly rushed, and then actually rushed through the energy shield in the middle, returning to Demon King's side. Immediately, Demon King Su Yintian launched a sword attack at Yang Dingtian. In the end, it was blocked by the energy shield in the middle. Naga's energy shield was really awesome. Yang Dingtian could go over, but Demon King on the other side could not. No wonder the Shura Vulture could revive the Sea Snake Empress at any time. The energy barrier in the middle was actually unidirectional. Yang Dingtian could not understand at all. How did he do it? The Devil Queen, who had returned to the Demon King's side, attacked the ancient Sea Snake Empress crazily. However, the attack of her level 24 cultivation was still somewhat useful against Yang Dingtian. But against the Sea Snake Empress, it was almost unharmed. The Sea Snake Empress even completely ignored him and focused on attacking the Demon King alone. Each of her attacks was close to the level of a demigod, because she could resurrect again and again. Towards the end, she simply used a suicidal attack. His entire body turned into a stream of light, fiercely slamming into the Demon King's body. Therefore, the scene immediately became incomparably intense and terrifying. Queen Devil Queen turned into a purple cannonball of light, crazily bombarding the Sea Snake Empress. As for the Sea Snake Empress, she turned into a yellow light and crazily bombarded the Demon King Su Yin Wentian. Although the Sea Snake Empress was not as heaven-defying as the Naga Shuang, every time she attacked, the damage to the Chaos Emperor armor was even greater than that of the Naga Shuang. Therefore, the Demon King gritted his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. He could only watch as his woman risked her life to save him, and her body was shattered time and time again. He could only watch as the defensive energy of the Chaos Emperor armor on his body continued to decrease. Under the attacks of the Naga Shuang and the Sea Snake Empress for half an hour, the Chaos Emperor armor's defensive energy was only left with half. The Demon King Su Yin Wentian immediately said angrily, "Sea Snake Empress, is there any conflict between us? Why do you want to kill me like this? Are you so willing to work for Yang Dingtian?" The Sea Snake Empress shook her head and said, "You and I have no enmity, and I did not work for Yang Dingtian. I just chose to side with him between you and him." The Demon King Su Yin Wentian said unwillingly, "Why? I'm clearly much stronger than him." The Sea Snake Empress said, "But you're much greedier than him." The Demon King Su Yin Wentian said, "What do you want? I can give it to you." The Sea Snake Empress said, "I want Empress Medusa to revive the people of my Sea Snake clan. Can you do it?" The Demon King Su Yin Wentian said, "I can't do it. Can Yang Dingtian do it?" The Sea Snake Empress said, "At least, he has a much higher chance of doing it than you." Hearing the Sea Snake Empress's words, Yang Dingtian's heart trembled. He didn't expect her to place her hopes of reviving the Sea Snake clan on him. Moreover, she had never said anything. Instead, she had fought desperately for Yang Dingtian, making him owe her a huge favor, and then made this request. As a result, Yang Dingtian no longer had a reason to refuse. The Demon King Su Yin Wentian was furious and sneered, "You're betting on him, at least he has to win." Boom 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 boom. In the blink of an eye, the Sea Snake Empress crazily bombarded the Demon King Su Yin Wentian dozens of times, and then sneered, "Why can't he win? Your Chaos Emperor armor won't be able to hold on for long." The Demon King Su Yin Wentian said slowly, "That's not necessarily true." Then, he actually sat down cross-legged, allowing the Sea Snake Empress and the Naga Shuang to attack him crazily. Then, the Demon King suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes started to change continuously. From human eyes, they turned into two balls of black flames, and finally into two green lights. Then his body began to change shape. He went from standing on two legs to lying on all fours. Then tentacles grew out of his body one after another. His body suddenly became incomparably disgusting and terrifying. His entire head became incomparably huge. Seeing this scene, the Sea Snake Empress and the Naga Shuang could not help but stop their attacks. Yang Dingtian also felt his hair stand on end as he watched this scene. The Demon King had turned from a human into an incomparably huge octopus-like monster. His entire head became huge, and his two eyes also became huge, flickering with a green light. Countless tentacles danced in the air. Yang Dingtian remembered that this was the earliest state of the speechless race. The earliest speechless race was a super-intelligent underwater creature. Because of the drastic change, this race began to move from the bottom of the sea to the land, and their entire bodies evolved to walk upright. The reason why the fallen silver dragon had chosen the speechless race as a candidate for the demigod race was because they had strong intelligence and spiritual power. However, the early state of the speechless race was really ugly. Of course, after they went on to land and evolved to walk upright, although their tentacles disappeared, they were still very ugly. It was only after being seduced by the fallen silver dragon and planted with its genes that it became slightly better and resembled a human. At this moment, it really looked like a big-headed octopus. However, why did the Demon King choose to transform at this time? Could it be that this speechless race's early octopus-like form had some trump card? Whoosh! Immediately, the two big eyes on the head of the Demon King's strange figure suddenly shot out a strange green light. Yang Dingtian had just seen this green light when his entire body was instantly frozen. From his Xian meridians to his energy sea, to every part of his body, he was completely frozen and motionless. Immediately after, the Queen Devil Queen was also instantly frozen. The Sea Snake Empress was still like an energy cannonball, blasting towards the Demon King. Then she was instantly frozen in the air. Immediately, she was incomparably terrified and shocked, because this feeling was too familiar. At that time, Queen Medusa had petrified everyone with just a glance. Finally, it was Naga Shuang. She was extremely proud and didn't believe that the octopus-like speechless race's mental attack would be effective against her. However, Naga Shuang was also completely frozen, inch by inch. Mental attack. This was a mental attack, which reminded Yang Dingtian of Shiman Ningning. At that time, she didn't have the strength to truss a chicken, but she was able to use a mental attack to completely freeze the enemy. This should be a mental attack of similar attributes to Queen Medusa's petrification technique. However, compared to Medusa, it was much weaker. However, it was already very heaven-defying. After the Demon King transformed, not only could he freeze the Sea Snake Empress, who was close to a demigod, he could even freeze the Naga Shuang. This was too shocking. No wonder the fallen silver dragon would choose the speechless race. As a demigod candidate race, they did look much stronger than the demon fox race. After immobilizing everyone, Devil King Su Yintian walked with countless tentacles. The two large eyes on top of his head continued to shoot out terrifying green rays of light, immobilizing everyone. The ugly Demon King slowly walked in front of the Sea Snake Empress and said word by word, "Obviously, you're on the wrong side. Now I'll tear you apart. Let's see if anyone can revive you." Then, the Demon King's disgusting tentacles grabbed the Sea Snake Empress's body and lifted her into the air. Then, it began to tear the Sea Snake Empress into pieces with all its might. At this moment, Vulture turned into a stream of light and immediately came out of Yang Dingtian's space ring. The cunning her had her eyes completely closed when she came out. But, as soon as she came out, her beautiful body was immediately frozen in the air. Closing her eyes was useless. The eyes on the Demon King's head were constantly emitting a green light that enveloped the entire space. As long as one was in this space, regardless of whether their eyes were open or not, they would be attacked by the spirit element and frozen alive. At that time, when Empress Medusa destroyed the Sea Serpent Empire, she didn't need to look at them at all. Wherever her gaze went, all the sea serpents turned into fossils. The Demon King tore with all its might, and immediately, the beautiful body of the Sea Snake Empress began to distort and deform. Because this was an energy body, when the Demon King transformed into an octopus, his spirit was extremely strong, but his martial strength was weakened. Therefore, he couldn't tear the Sea Snake Empress into pieces at once. However, the Sea Snake Empress was unable to move or resist. Sooner or later, she would be torn apart alive. And once she was torn apart, without Vulture's resurrection, she would definitely die. Young Dingtian was burning with anxiety. He was thinking about how to save her, and how to break the Demon King's spirit element body immobilization technique. He immediately thought of a problem. If Medusa could turn the Sea Snake clan and the Mermaid clan into fossils, could it turn the Naga clan into fossils? It shouldn't be possible, right? However, the Naga Shuang in front of him was also frozen. I don't know if the Naga royalty sword soul can break this spirit technique, but I still have to give it a try. Yang Dingtian's consciousness moved, and the Chaos Emperor Grade Soul Sword shot out. The golden Naga royalty sword soul covered the sky and flew towards the Demon King. Chapter 1131. The energy barrier in the middle did not cause any obstruction. Countless golden Naga royalty sword spirits flew over just like that. Whoosh 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 whoosh. The sword spirits crazily cut at the two large eyeballs on top of Demon King Suyin Wentian's head. However, it was useless. Those two eyeballs were still under the protection of the Chaos Emperor armor. Even though it looked like these two large eyes had completely protruded out, they were still under the Chaos Emperor armor. The Naga royalty sword spirit still could not cause any damage. All the attacks were blocked by the Chaos Emperor armor. Of course, the Naga royalty sword spirit did not have any destructive effect on the Demon King's mental attack. In fact, this was normal. This was because the mental and energy systems were completely different categories. It was impossible to use an energy attack to destroy a mental attack. The Demon King's transformation weakened his martial arts and strengthened his mental attribute. Yang Dingtian's side was completely helpless. This was because whether it was the Sea Snake Empress, the Naga Shuang, or Yang Dingtian, none of them were of the mental attribute. Of course, the Demon King Wentian was not of the mental attribute either, but the Speechless Clan Suyin could. Only now did Yang Dingtian know that the Speechless Clan could transform and possess both mental and physical attributes. No wonder the Speechless Clan was so intelligent. Seeing that the Naga royalty sword spirit's attack was completely ineffective, the Demon King immediately laughed out loud and continued to tear at the Sea Snake Empress crazily. It was torn to the extreme, to the extreme. The Sea Snake Empress's beautiful body had already been pulled to a terrifying extent. Bang! Finally, the Sea Snake Empress was torn apart alive and instantly turned into pieces. Yang Dingtian's heart trembled, but he was completely unable to move. Although he and the Sea Snake Empress had no feelings for each other before, and she had always been indifferent to him, she was still Poisa's mother, and she had only encountered this calamity because she was helping him fight. Could it be that she was going to die just like that? Yang Dingtian's heart felt as if it was about to be torn apart. He really didn't know how he was going to explain this to Poisa. Although Poisa appeared cold, she was very delicate and sensitive. She had a great need for emotions. The appearance of the Sea Snake Empress gave her a strong sense of happiness. The feeling of having another family member made her very happy. Although she didn't express it very obviously, Yang Dingtian could clearly feel it. Now, in order to help him, the Sea Snake Empress had died just like that? Just as Yang Dingtian was about to be torn apart, the shattered Sea Snake Empress and countless energy bodies once again condensed in the air. Then it completely recovered and became whole again. She had been resurrected once again. Yang Dingtian was completely shocked, and Demon King Suyin was even more shocked. How is this possible? How could this be? Vulture had clearly been immobilized, and his profound energy and energy sea could not move. How could he still revive the Sea Snake Empress? Immediately after, Yang Dingtian and Demon King both thought of it. Celestial spirit masters also relied on their mental strength to revive energy creatures, not their profound energy and energy sea. Of course, Vulture's cultivation had broken through to the saint level, and his mental strength had also skyrocketed. However, although his entire body was immobilized, his consciousness and soul were still moving freely, so he could still revive the Sea Snake Empress. Therefore, Demon King used a mental attack to immobilize everyone. It was very powerful, very stunning. However, it was useless. The situation was still the same, but the attack on Demon King had stopped. Even if Demon King killed the Sea Snake Empress time and time again, Vulture would still revive her time and time again. Of course, the most important thing was that in order to immobilize everyone, the Demon King's mental strength crazily surged out. It wouldn't be long before his mental strength was completely exhausted. If that was the case, he would be in a complete tragedy. Thus, Demon King gave up on the Sea Snake Empress with incomparable grief and indignation. Once again, he crazily attacked the energy barrier in the middle, hoping to rush over and capture Yang Dingtian, then escape without a trace. Boom! 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 He desperately squeezed the energy barrier. Even though the entire energy barrier and the entire ground were trembling violently, the 10,000 meters of ground beneath their feet had been completely shattered. However, the energy barrier was still incomparably sturdy. This was because Naga Shuang had been continuously injecting profound energy into the energy barrier. Demon King's heart was filled with anger and unwillingness. His mental attack had clearly immobilized Naga's body. But why couldn't he immobilize her energy sea and profound veins? She could still continuously inject profound energy into the energy barrier. In that case, unless Naga's profound energy was completely exhausted, the energy barrier would not be broken at all. Thus, the Demon King was once again in a deadlock. He couldn't leave, and it was useless to immobilize everyone. The Sea Snake Empress couldn't be killed. He could immobilize Vulture's body, but he couldn't immobilize her soul and consciousness. He could still continuously resurrect the Sea Snake Empress. This was the most disgusting battle that the Demon King had ever experienced. The Sea Snake Empress, Naga Shuang, and the Celestial Spirit Master Vulture. He wasn't afraid of any one of them, and he still had a chance of winning. However, when these three were combined, they became so heaven-defying and unsolvable. Demon King really regretted it now. Why did he help Vulture, this little bitch, at that time? He gave her the powerful body of Shura, gave her the soul-gathering shadow, and instantly turned her into an incomparably powerful celestial spirit master. However, not only did Vulture not make any contributions to the evil ways, in the blink of an eye, she patted her butt and threw herself into Yang Dingtian's embrace. Then, she turned around and fiercely bit him. If it wasn't for Vulture today, he would have already won. This little bitch, with a bite she would bite into the bone. However, at this moment, little by little, Naga Shuang's body began to move again. Naga, as expected of Naga. His spirit immobilization technique could freeze her for a moment, but it couldn't last forever. She recovered little by little. Moreover, her eyes were filled with towering anger. This kind of anger made even the Demon King feel incomparable fear. Naga Shuang looked down on any human, but now she was actually immobilized by Su Yantian. This was a great humiliation. He must be torn to pieces alive to relieve Naga Shuang's hatred. Kacha! Naga Shuang recovered inch by inch. While the Demon King was almost frightened out of his wits, she completely recovered. I don't care who you are. Whether you are a human or a disgusting and ugly octopus, you are dead today. Naga Shuang slowly flew into the sky and said word by word. What bullshit, Demon King, you dare to offend me today, you are dead. Then, Naga Shuang in the air suddenly turned into a stream of light, like a slingshot, fiercely colliding with the Demon King. Boom! There was a loud noise. Immediately, the Demon King flew out. Then Naga Shuang, hundreds of meters away, opened her four claws and crazily tore at the octopus like Demon King. Roar! Roar! She opened her terrifying mouth and crazily bit. Holding his octopus body high, she swung and smashed with all her might. Bang, 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 bang. At this time, the first dark domain seemed to have suffered a violent earthquake. The entire ground trembled and trembled. Naga lifted the Demon King's body, and every time she smashed it down, the entire ground would immediately have a few thousand meters deep abyss. The solid ground was torn into countless cracks. The elemental creatures of the first dark domain desperately drilled out and fled frantically. The entire first dark domain seemed to have encountered the end of the world. A furious Naga was so terrifying. The octopus form of the Demon King, whose martial arts cultivation was weak, was caught by Naga without the slightest ability to resist. Just like that, he was violently ravaged. In the sky and on the ground, he was crazily beaten. And his spirit immobilization technique had long lost its effect under such a violent beating. Soon, the Sea Snake Empress also woke up. Roar! She also suddenly transformed, from a delicate beauty to a sea snake that was hundreds of meters long. Although she was much uglier, she had also become much more ferocious. Thus, under the energy shield, seeing a Naga beast that was hundreds of meters long, a sea snake beast that was hundreds of meters long, crazily biting and ravaging a disgusting and terrifying octopus. The roar was earth-shattering. Devil King Su Yantian, who had never known fear, was now truly terrified. He was truly afraid. An enraged Naga really made people tremble. He could clearly feel that the defensive energy of his Chaos Emperor armor was rapidly decreasing. From half, to 1/3 to a quarter. Moreover, it was still rapidly decreasing. He had transformed into a spirit type. And from a wonderful move, it had become a terrible move. Now under the crazy beating, he had no strength to fight back at all. There was a feeling that no one in the world could save him. The two violent beasts were still crazily ravaging. In fact, they no longer cared about the crazy consumption of their profound chi. The Demon King was shocked to find that his Chaos Emperor armor was almost depleted. Please don't explode. As long as the Chaos Emperor armor didn't explode, even if its defensive energy was depleted, it could still spend a long time devouring enough energy to completely recover its defensive power. For example, last time, the crazy attack of nearly 100 Saint-level expeditionary forces had greatly reduced the Chaos Emperor armor's defense, but in less than a month, after devouring countless energy, it had completely recovered. However, once it was destroyed, the Chaos Emperor armor would disappear forever. Without the Chaos Emperor armor, the Demon King had no advantage. Under the crazy beating of the two monsters, the Chaos Emperor armor became weaker and weaker. At this time, the Queen Devil Queen was still crazily launching suicidal attacks against the Sea Snake Empress, turning her into ashes again and again. Although she couldn't stop the Sea Snake Empress from attacking her man, she could at least slow it down. Devil King Su Yantian couldn't help but shudder when he saw the scene of the Devil Queen's dead concubine. Under the completely crazy attack, soon the Chaos Emperor armor was about to explode. There was only about 1% of its energy left. Stop, stop, stop. The Demon King screamed. Duga Shuang let's make a deal. The Naga Shuang sneered. You don't have any deals with me now. The Demon King shouted. Yes, yes. I will give you the primordial evil spirit of the Nihility Piaoling. This way, you will have a complete primordial evil spirit. You can become stronger in an instant, and the time for you to break through to the demigod realm will be greatly shortened. The Naga Shuang immediately stopped and sneered. If I want the primordial evil spirit, can't I take it myself? The Demon King said. The primordial evil spirit is completely bound to her spirit sea, unless she is willing to give it up and separate it from her body. Otherwise, you won't be able to take it away. If you tear her apart 100 times, she will revive 100 times. Just like that time, I wanted to possess Yang Dingtian. So the evil spirit came out, and you had the chance to take it away alive. Now you can't take away her primordial evil spirit. The Naga Shuang said. I can't take it away, but can you? The Demon King said. Of course I can do it. At this moment, the Queen Devil Queen was still crazily attacking the Sea Snake Empress, and she was still smashed into pieces time and time again. The purpose was to help the Demon King and reduce the attack power he received. However, after hearing the Demon King's words, she was instantly stunned. Her entire body was completely frozen. The Naga Shuang asked, How are you going to take it away? The Demon King said, It's very simple. I will use the evil soul art to pull out her soul alive. In this way, the primordial evil spirit will also be extracted. The first layer of stripping is completed. The sea of Qi Sea and the evil spirit are separated. Then, I will destroy her soul and perform the second layer of stripping. Finally, I will give you this half of the primordial evil spirit. and you will have the complete primordial evil spirit. As soon as these words came out, the Queen Devil Queen, or the Nihility Piaoling, was completely shocked on the spot, as if she had been struck by lightning. Chapter 1132. In fact, the Devil Queen couldn't even react in time. The Demon King's words, to her, were like a voice from beyond the heavens, unreal. Their relationship had spanned more than 200 years. Perhaps the soul of the Demon King in front of her had already become incomparably complicated. But in the end it was still Wentian's. No matter if it was the Wentian of Earth, or the crippled Wentian of the evil ways in the primal chaos world. This Demon King in front of her, no matter how many times he had changed, the soul of this Demon King's body was still Wentian. Not Yongxi, not Su Yan. Yongxi's soul had long been shattered. As for Su Yan's soul, it had long been destroyed by the dark energy, and was suppressed in a corner, trembling. 200 years ago, the Wentian that fell in love with Nihility Piaoling was the combination of Earth's Wentian and the Wentian of the alien world. She had never been able to differentiate clearly, nor did she want to, nor could she differentiate clearly. In terms of love, Nihility Piaoling had never betrayed her. Ever since she had been demonized, she had never left. Even when Yang Dingtian had once obtained complete victory, and was willing to accept her return, she had resolutely chosen to be loyal to her love, even if the consequence of that was death. And just now, she had once again rejected Yang Dingtian's invitation to return. She completely had a reason to return. She was originally the successor of the Nihility race. Furthermore, she was Dongfang Bingling's teacher. After demonizing into the Devil Queen, although she wasn't very outstanding, and had lost 2 world extermination wars, she was still loyal to him. But at the very least, she was wholeheartedly loyal to the Devil King and the evil Tao. Just now, she would rather choose to live and die with her lover. So she had chosen to come over. Again and again, she had launched a suicidal attack, turning herself into ashes. It was all to fight side by side with her man, to save the Demon King. Although she hadn't done it, she had done her best. In other words, for her love, Devil Queen had sacrificed everything, including her own life. The word betrayal, she had never thought of it. Not only had she never thought of herself, she had also never thought of the Demon King. This was the world's most solid love. How could there be betrayal? However, this solid faith, with the Demon King's casual words, turned to ashes. When the Demon King said that he would use the evil soul art to deal with her, he said that he would destroy her sea of qi and her soul. His tone was calm, without any fluctuations. After a long while, all of his senses seemed to have returned to his body from his surroundings. Only then did she remember why she had felt so uneasy before she came out of the dark crevice. He felt even more uneasy than Crown Prince Li Ming. So this was the source. This was a huge trap. However, it wasn't the trap that Yang Dingtian had set up. It was the Devil King's trap. Cheat. T. What T? Why did he insist on bringing her to the first dark domain to fight against Yang Dingtian? There was no reason at all. Although the Infernal Queen's cultivation level was powerful, she was clearly superfluous in this battle at the 24th level. If Yang Dingtian hadn't found the Naga Shuang, the Demon King could have won effortlessly and captured Yang Dingtian. There was no need for her, the Devil Queen, to come. If Yang Dingtian had found the Naga Shuang, or even stronger helpers, Queen Devil Queen, there was no need for her to come either. Because she couldn't help at all, and would even become a burden. Reality had proven this point. She, the Queen Devil Queen, couldn't even defeat Yang Dingtian. Even though she tried her best to commit suicide again and again, shattering her bones again and again, she couldn't even slow down the Sea Snake Empress's attacks. Even though her attacks were tragic, they were useless. Everyone present treated her as if she didn't exist. There was no need for her to come at all. So why did the Demon King insist on bringing her here? The reason was simple. He wanted to bring her here as a bargaining chip. At the crucial moment, he wanted to use her to trade, to sacrifice her. This wasn't something the Demon King came up with on the spur of the moment. He had planned this long ago. If the situation became worse, he would do this. The Queen Devil Queen couldn't hold it in anymore. Wentian, didn't you say that there are two kinds of feelings that are eternal and single-minded? One is spiritual sustenance, and the other is the responsibility to protect. And I am your spiritual sustenance. Without me, you will forever fall into the dark abyss, without a trace of happiness. The Demon King didn't answer her. Instead, he stared at the Naga Shuang and asked, Deal? Deal or no deal? The Queen Devil Queen hissed, Answer me. Yang Dingtian looked at the Naga Shuang and said, Shuang don't agree. I won't allow it. This was the first time Yang Dingtian had used a commanding tone to the Naga Shuang. The Naga Shuang frowned slightly. She stopped her attacks and sneered, Then deal. The Demon King was overjoyed. The Sea Snake Empress was astonished. Then, she continued to attack the Demon King crazily. The Naga Shuang ordered, Sea Snake, stop attacking. Even though she was astonished and confused, the Sea Snake Empress couldn't disobey Naga's order. She stopped her attacks, and even transformed back into her human form. Her face was filled with disbelief and shock as she looked at the Naga Shuang. The Demon King calmly transformed from his octopus form back into his human form. His powerful spiritual ability disappeared, and was replaced by incomparably powerful martial strength. He looked at the Queen Devil Queen, and opened his demon claws. Yang Dingtian shouted, Shuang don't make the deal. Stop him, do you hear me? The Naga Shuang turned a deaf ear, and only stared at the Demon King. Yang Dingtian said sternly, Shuang stop the Demon King. The Naga Shuang said, Husband, do you still want to save the Devil Queen? Yang Dingtian roared, Even if the Devil Queen deserves to die, she should die in our hands, not the Demon King's. The Naga Shuang turned her face away and didn't respond. Whoosh! The Demon King's hand suddenly opened, and sucked the Demon Queen's undead concubine over. The Queen Devil Queen looked at the other party, and didn't resist at all. She asked word by word, Didn't you say that I was your spiritual sustenance? Without me, will you fall into the dark abyss without a trace of beauty in your heart? The Demon King said indifferently, Don't you know that my heart has long fallen into the abyss? What beauty is there? After saying that, his eyes instantly turned dark green. An incomparably terrifying energy overflowed from his hand. In the entire space, ghosts wailed and wolves howled. The entire sky suddenly darkened. Then, countless green lights suddenly drilled into the Queen Devil Queen's body. Her soul was pulled out from her body, while she was still alive. The Queen Devil Queen, or the nothingness Piao Ling, let out an incomparably shrill and painful scream. No! Yang Dingtian roared and rushed over. However, he crashed into the energy wall. Previously, the energy wall in the middle was one way, and Yang Dingtian could pass through it. But now it was changed by the Naga Shuang, so he couldn't pass through. In fact, Yang Dingtian's anger didn't come from the Devil Queen's tragic experience. He had already said that the Devil Queen refused to return, and she deserved to die. He had also decided that he wouldn't forgive the Devil Queen. His anger came from the ugliness in front of him. The Demon King and the Naga Shuang played the ugliness together. The Devil Queen deserved to die, but it should have been Yang Dingtian who did it, and definitely not the Demon King. Yang Dingtian suddenly released the dark profound flame, and was about to create a spatial door and jump over. However, in the next moment his body was completely frozen. His energy sea and profound veins were completely frozen. The Naga Shuang directly used the energy of her cultivation to suppress him. The beautiful Devil Queen, who was as beautiful as a celestial, let out the most mournful scream in history. Her beautiful face began to distort. Her beautiful body began to distort. Huge black wings burst out of her back. Just like this, the primeval evil spirit wrapped around her soul, and bit by bit, it was pulled out alive. The evil soul art was over. In the end, the Devil Queen's soul was wrapped by the evil spirit, and turned into a strange energy shadow, floating in the Demon King's hand. And the Queen Devil Queen's magic-like celestial body, that incomparably beautiful face. She had completely turned into a walking corpse. Without the protection of the evil spirit, her body was no longer beautiful. Her entire body cracked, And her face also cracked because it was distorted too much. Her entire body was dripping with blood. On her back, the bone spurs suddenly smashed out, also dripping with blood. Bang! Her walking corpse directly smashed to the ground motionless. The evil spirit wrapped around a soul, constantly surging in his hand. The cry of the evil spirit had already resounded throughout the entire space. Naga Shuang looked at the half of the evil spirit in the Demon King's hand. Her eyes were filled with infinite greed. Even her breathing had become heavy. "Leave it to me," Naga Shuang said to the Demon King. The Demon King slowly walked over and gently played with the half of the evil spirit in his hand. Then, he trembled and said, "Your Excellency Naga, since we've started the transaction, why don't you ask for more?" Naga Shuang said, "Tell me about it." Demon King said, "Yang Dingtian is your lover, your partner, right?" "Yes," Naga Shuang said. Demon King said, "Moreover, if I'm not wrong, you're going to enter the first estrus soon, right? Once you're an estrus but not truly released, it's very disadvantageous to your cultivation, right?" When these words came out, Yang Dingtian couldn't help but be surprised. There was actually such a thing. She really didn't know. After Naga Shuang heard this, she nodded in agreement. Demon King said, "You're a force Naga, not a spiritual Naga. Only spiritual Naga won't be suffering from estrus. When you're an estrus, if you don't succeed in mating, it will cause irreparable damage to your body, right?" Naga Shuang was already very angry, but she still nodded. Chapter 1133. The Demon King said, "And Yang Dingtian's cultivation is too low. Once you mate with him, you'll lose at least half of your energy to transform his body. Not only does he have to share your demigod body, but he also has to share your powerful cultivation. He's like a parasite, isn't he?" This time, the Naga Shuang didn't nod and responded in silence. The Demon King said, "But you don't have a choice, because there's no longer a male Naga in this world. Yang Dingtian is the only human who can make you fall in love. So, he's your only partner and can't be replaced, right?" The Naga Shuang was motionless in the air. Her body, which was hundreds of meters tall, seemed to be frozen. The Demon King said, "So you're in a dilemma. Once you mate with him, you'll lose most of your energy. And if you don't, you'll be greatly injured. Now I have a way to satisfy both sides. Are you willing to listen?" The Naga Shuang nodded and said, "Let's hear it." The Demon King said with a smile, "You should know that my cultivation is infinitely close to that of a demigod. I don't know how much mystic chi is stored in my energy reserve, but it can only sink into the abyss of my energy reserve. Over the past 200 years, I've devoured an endless amount of energy on the throne of darkness. It can be said that if it weren't for the limitation of my talent, my cultivation and Su Yan's energy reserve would have already broken through to the demigod realm." The Naga Shuang sneered and said, "I'm not here to hear you brag. No matter if you're a lowly human or a lowly octopus, breaking through to the demigod realm is just a dream." The Demon King said, "What I want to say is that the energy stored in my body isn't inferior to yours, Your Excellency Naga. It's just that most of it can only sleep in the abyss of my energy reserve and can't be used." "And then?" the Naga Shuang asked. The Demon King said, "The reason why Yang Dingtian made you go into heat is because of the special energy in his body. It has nothing to do with his character, right?" Naga Shuang thought for a while and said, "I want to say that it has something to do with personality, but it really has nothing to do with it. Our Naga's emotions are based on the sense of energy." The Demon King said, "This way we have the best of both worlds. I will completely destroy Yang Dingtian's soul and turn him into a walking corpse. Then, I will possess his body and combine with you. How about that?" The moment these words were spoken, the expressions of the Sea Snake Empress and Vulture changed completely. Only Yang Dingtian remained expressionless. Naga Shuang asked, "You're wearing the Chaos Monarch armor. How are you going to possess someone?" The Demon King said, "It's simple. Go to the Empire of Darkness." I put on the Chaos Emperor armor in Yang Dingtian's body. Together, we entered the Empire of Darkness refinement and fusion arrays. This way, we can complete the possession. My soul and all my energy will be injected into Yang Dingtian's body. Furthermore, the Chaos Emperor armor will also envelop Yang Dingtian's body, preventing this incomparably powerful energy from leaking out, and Yang Dingtian's body will not be reduced to ashes. Naga Shuang said. How do we combine with him being enveloped by the Chaos Emperor armor? The Demon King said. We can find a place where the Xian pressure is incomparably strong. This way it can balance out with the pressure in his energy reserve. Then, we will combine in that place. Was there such a place? Of course there was. In the heart of the ruins of the old Naga Empire, there was Xian Qi that was hundreds of thousands of times stronger. The crystallized Xian Qi had this energy pressure. After destroying the Chaos Emperor armor there, Yang Dingtian's body would not be reduced to ashes. Then they would combine in that place. Naga Shuang could not only pass the estrus period, but also not lose energy. Instead, she could gain a lot of energy. This was indeed the best of both worlds. Demon King smiled and said, My Queen of Naga, what do you think of my idea? Naga Shuang said, It is indeed the best of both worlds. Demon King said, Then do you agree? At this moment, the Sea Snake Empress's expression had become extremely ugly, even though she did not have any extra feelings for Yang Dingtian. But at the very least he was a man of Naga. He was the only savior in this world. At this moment, the Demon King and Naga were openly discussing how to kill Yang Dingtian's soul and occupy his body. But Yang Dingtian was completely expressionless. As for Vulture, she was completely stunned, as if she had lost the ability to react. She had no idea how a simple matter of eliminating the Demon King would develop to this point. Demon King Yinyan asked the sky, Queen of Naga, what is your decision? Naga Shuang said, Your suggestion is not bad, but do you think I will agree? Will I betray my husband? Do you know that our loyalty and single-mindedness to our partners is eternal? No. Demon King Yinyan said, Your greed for energy is eternal. The reason why you are loyal to your partners is because you share cultivation and fate. Moreover, once Naga combines, their combat strength is greater than 2. Because in the Naga Empire, there are no families and almost no descendants, so in order to compete for more energy, they have to combine. If they fight alone, they are very likely to lose. Therefore, this is the reason why Naga are loyal to their partners. It has nothing to do with feelings. Demon King Yinyan smiled and said, So, I think you will agree. Naga Shuang smiled and said, If that is the case, why are you still asking for my decision? Demon King Yinyan smiled and said, It is better to ask clearly. Naga Shuang said, I have already said that I agree to the deal, even though this sentence was still not very clear. Demon King Yinyan Wentian did not have the slightest intention of forcing her, because there was already an irreparable crack between Naga and Yang Dingtian. Naga Shuang waved and said, Give me the evil spirit of the primordial beginning. Demon King Yinyan said, Of course, but I think you can slightly express your sincerity. Naga Shuang said, I have already stopped attacking you. Your Chaos Emperor armor does not even have 1% of its energy left. What do you want from me? Demon King Yinyan Wentian said, For example, remove the energy wall in the middle. Sea Snake Empress said, Master Naga, you can't. At this moment, Yang Dingtian said to the spirit Vulture, Enter my ring. Vulture's expression changed, and it turned into a stream of light and drilled into Yang Dingtian's space ring. Naga Shuang stretched out her hand and said slowly, Since I've agreed, it naturally counts. Give me the evil spirit of the primordial beginning. Demon King Yinyan Wentian hesitated for a moment, and then his hand gently loosened. Whoosh! The evil spirit of the primordial beginning, which was wrapped in Devil Queen's soul, flew into Naga Shuang's hand. Naga Shuang's eyes shone brightly, and the golden light from her entire body almost burst out into the sky. Incomparable ecstasy and excitement. Then, Naga's face suddenly turned ferocious. She stretched out her sharp claws, and her terrifying claws stretched out again and again. The part that grew back was completely green energy. Squeak! Just like that, Naga's energy claws pierced into the evil spirit. Just this point alone, no human could directly pierce into the evil spirit's body. Then, Naga tore apart the evil spirit of the primordial beginning bit by bit, crushing the soul of Queen Devil Queen inside bit by bit, and finally, pulling it out bit by bit. Throughout the entire process, Queen Devil Queen's soul no longer struggled, nor did it scream or howl. All of her grief, indignation, misery, and death had been completely exhausted just now. Therefore, she did not react at all during the process of her soul being completely destroyed. Just like that, nothingness Piaoling's soul was turned into ashes. The evil spirit of the primordial beginning was completely stripped away. Then very directly, she swallowed the evil spirit of the primordial beginning into her mouth. Ayo! Ayo! The evil spirit of the primordial beginning entered Naga's body, and instantly burst out with an incomparably resplendent white light. Naga Shuang's huge body, which was hundreds of meters long, suddenly straightened. Then her golden body quickly grew larger. The light that burst out from her entire body surpassed 2 suns, almost completely illuminating the first dark domain. Then, she let out an incomparably excited and crazy scream. Roar! This instant of powerful energy made her lose all her rationality. She was like a dark wanderer with a huge addiction, devouring countless dark energy in an instant. In an instant, she was like an immortal, enough to make her forget everything. Finally, she turned into a stream of light and flew into the sky. The 2 halves of the evil spirit of the primordial beginning in her body had merged into one. The most powerful energy in history had erupted in her body. Ayo! Ayo! This half of the evil spirit of the primordial beginning was in Devil Queen's body. However, after entering Naga's body, the energy that burst out was completely earth-shattering. She was in the air, crazily releasing it. In the blink of an eye, she had flown thousands of miles away. She was like the sun flying wildly in the sky. Naga had completely forgotten about the battlefield here. She threw Yang Dingtian and the Sea Snake Empress on the spot. Immediately, the energy shield that he had set up disappeared without a trace. At this moment, only Yang Dingtian, the Sea Snake Empress, the Demon King, and Su Yen Wentian were left in the original open space. The Demon King spread his hands at Yang Dingtian and said, Yang Dingtian, have you ever thought of this scene? Yang Dingtian laughed at himself. He really didn't think of it. The Demon King said, I've long said that Naga's greed for energy is eternal. What Naga is forever loyal to her partner? Only an idiot would believe such words. When you treated Naga as your savior, you were already destined to have a tragic ending. Yang Dingtian still laughed at himself. The Demon King curled his lips and said, Actually, after Naga completes her transformation, her first estrus period will arrive. At this time, their feelings will become more and more intense. Therefore, as long as you take the initiative to tease her, and then half refuse, you can combine with her. Because when she was blinded by her emotions, she forgot that she had to pay half of her energy. At that time, you can cook the rice. And when she woke up afterwards, everything was already a foregone conclusion, and could not be undone. And at that time, you were already her true partner. She was really loyal to you forever, because she had no other choice. Yang Dingtian had indeed thought of this possibility. The Demon King curled his lips and mocked. But I know that you're a hypocrite. You don't care about doing such a thing. You have to wait for a woman to take the initiative, and not force yourself on her. Hypocrisy really kills people. And then you were killed. If you forced yourself to combine with Naga, you would directly have an indestructible body. What chance would I have? Yang Dingtian. My hypocrisy and stupidity have been seen through by you. What else is there to say? The Demon King no longer used his blink technique. He walked over step by step and said slowly, Yang Dingtian, is there anyone in the world who can save you now? Yang Dingtian, probably not. The Demon King said, then I'm very sorry. I will use the evil soul art to pull out your soul and completely destroy it. Then, I will take over your body, occupy your identity, and enjoy your woman. Isn't there a saying like this? Your children, I will raise them. Your wife, I will sleep with. Yang Dingtian. Then my wife Shiman Yin, will you also sleep with her? As soon as he said this, the Demon King paused for a moment. Yang Dingtian said slowly, Your Majesty Demon King, what should I call you now? The soul in this body of yours is already unprecedentedly complex, isn't it? There is Wentian on Earth. There is also the crippled Wentian in the Chaos world. And there is also Su Yen who is hiding in a corner and trembling because of depravity. What about the other one? Who is it? When you leave the throne of darkness and enter a person's body, who is he? The Demon King stopped and said, Yang Dingtian, what do you mean by this? Yang Dingtian. The Demon King Wentian from before had always been on the throne of darkness. He was just a ball of incomparably powerful soul energy. Later, you failed to take over my body, and had no choice but to leave the Empire of Darkness personally. Therefore you had to have a body. Of course, this body has to be particular. It can't be an ordinary body. You have to leave a soul imprint unique to you on his brain. This way, you can use this body without any hindrance, and use his brain. Otherwise, you will be like my master Dongfang Minmi. Although he completely took over Martial Uncle Lung Qingchen's body, there was still a strong rejection in his brain. Therefore, his memories would shatter and become chaotic. For a long time he was tormented. Also, Yang Yunchong took over Yang Zheng's body. Every 3 to 5 days, he would have a splitting headache and be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. Regarding this point, Yongxi Wentian must remember it clearly. The Demon King's face suddenly twitched. Clearly, he had awakened the relevant painful memories. He said hoarsely, Continue. Yang Dingtian. The so-called soul imprint, I think it should be a kind of soul duplication. That is, completely duplicating a person's consciousness and memories, and placing them in the depths of another person's brain. Usually, these consciousness and memories are completely dormant. When necessary, you can directly take over this person's body, and easily activate these duplicated consciousness and memories, seamlessly connecting the soul and the body. Is it like this, His Majesty Demon King? The Demon King nodded and said, although it's not completely correct, it's not much different. This kind of body is called a contracted body. Yang Dingtian. I think that in the entire world, besides Empress Medusa, there shouldn't be anyone who can do soul duplication. Therefore, the original owner of this contracted body must have been to the soul-leaving palace. The Demon King nodded and said, completely correct. Yang Dingtian counted with his fingers and said, who has been to the soul-leaving palace? Zhu Qingzhu Gudu Iran, Duga Xiao and one more person. I don't know who it is. Among these 4 people, which one of them is your contracted body? The Demon King said, take a guess. Yang Dingtian. Duga Xiao it shouldn't be, because this kind of energy duplication may still require a completely voluntary principle. Therefore, the soul-leaving palace will use certain things in exchange to make them willingly offer their brain. For example, Dugu Iran obtained the body of an incomparably powerful male Shura. Zhu Qingzhu obtained the soul-devouring mystic Qi. Duga Xiao, on the other hand, didn't obtain anything. The Demon King said, at that time I thought so too. Later, I found out that he took away a baby girl. Yang Dingtian. Dugu Iran is not your contracted body. Zhu Qingzhu has disappeared for a long time. He might be. Of course, your contracted body might be another person, the 4th mysterious person, who entered the soul-leaving palace. The Demon King's pupil shrank. Yang Dingtian. Then I guess that your contracted body is this mysterious 4th person, not Zhu Qingzhu. You guessed right. The Demon King said. Continue guessing. Yang Dingtian. Your Majesty Demon King. Which soul is in charge of your body now? Earth asks the heavens, the chaos world asks the heavens? Or the contracted body? The Demon King smiled. The contracted body. When the time is up, his soul will completely disappear. How can he make the decision? Yang Dingtian. What if he is very smart? For example, before the time is up, he lets someone use the soul-devouring mystic Qi to destroy himself, and then completely freeze himself? This way, he will be completely between death and not death. Maybe he will escape the time limit, and his soul won't be destroyed? This is called being put on the brink of death to live. When these words came out, the Demon King's expression changed. He even involuntarily took half a step back. Yang Dingtian. We all know that whether it is Earth's Wentian, or the chaos worlds Tian. Their souls have been destroyed and split countless times. They are already incomplete. Therefore, they are basically going to lose. As for Su Yan's soul, because it has been swallowing dark energy for a long time, it has long been hiding in the corner of its brain and shivering. Among all the souls in this body, only you are complete and strong. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. In this battle of souls, I am very optimistic about you, father-in-law. In an instant, the Demon King's eyes burst out with a trembling light. Yang Dingtian slowly said, "My master Dongfang Minmi had his cultivation destroyed by you and was imprisoned in the world of ice and snow. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental that I met you in the world of ice and snow? Why did you take such a big detour to go from Cloud Sky City to Inyang School? There was no need to go through the world of ice and snow." The Demon King's breathing gradually calmed down after being extremely chaotic. Yang Dingtian. Also, when you first met me, you wanted to pass down the Lord of Cloud Sky City to me and betroth Yin to me. It doesn't make sense. Now that I think about it, I must have said something in Earth's Chinese when I was unconscious. Chapter 1134. Yang Dingtian said, "In this world, other than the Demon King's people, only his contracted bodies can understand Chinese. That's because you have all of the Demon King's memories in your heads." The Demon King was silent for a long time before asking, "Did Dongfang Minmi tell you? Did he recognize me?" Yang Dingtian said, "No, master never told me. In fact, even after he revived, the memories in his head were already incomplete. I don't know if he recognized you. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But after he revived, he basically never talked to me about you." The Demon King said, "Then how did you guess?" Yang Dingtian said, "First, when he was in Cloud Sky City, Shiman Wuya didn't have enough talent because he cultivated a 9th grade martial technique, so he didn't make any progress. He was already in his 20s, but he still didn't have any prospects. If this continued, even if he and Yang Pei loved each other, they definitely wouldn't be together. So he left his hometown. I don't know if he was escaping or looking for a fortuitous encounter. After a few years, he came back and his cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. From a trash that was looked down upon by others, he became a top-notch expert. He successfully won the heart of a beauty and became the Lord of Cloud Sky City." The Demon King said, "What does this prove? It's just a fortuitous encounter. Are your fortuitous encounters any less than mine?" Yang Dingtian said, "I have many fortuitous encounters, but they were all destined, as if they were arranged by the hands of the heavens. So your so-called fortuitous encounter is probably the same. It's just a transaction where you sold your soul." The Demon King said, "Just because of my sudden rise you suspect me? This reason isn't enough." Yang Dingtian said, "Then the second reason is that when you and I met for the first time, you wanted me to be the successor to the Lord of Cloud Sky City and betrothed Yin to me. You even sacrificed your own life in order to save me. Of course, I admit that there are indeed very noble people in this world. But later on, I learned that when you were the Lord of Cloud Sky City, your methods were extremely cruel when you quelled the rebellion. You could be considered an ambitious and ruthless person. Would an ambitious and ruthless person sacrifice his life for a young man he just met? Although this is very shocking, it's not realistic enough." The Demon King asked, "What else? What other reasons do you have?" Yang Dingtian said, "That night, when the Devil Queen was carrying a coffin through Cloud Sky City, I went to the Hell Prison's energy array to check on Shiman Wuya's body. The substitute looked exactly the same. I couldn't tell that anything was wrong, and neither could Yin. However, she was stunned for a brief moment before she immediately denied it. Of course, these aren't enough reasons. The more important reason is that you didn't even blink when you killed the Devil Queen." The Demon King said, "Why should I blink? I'm a Dark Demon King. Why should I blink when I kill a woman I once loved? There must be other reasons. Tell me." Yang Dingtian was silent for a long time before saying, "Shimanju, When you knew that there was a spy in the evil ways, you immediately knew it was Shimanju, because you understood him the most. However, you couldn't take the initiative to pick him out because that would expose him. Therefore, as long as anyone comes out to expose Shimanju, you will immediately execute Shimanju. Then, you let all the evil martial artists possess the bodies of saint and half-saint demon foxes without any worries. The Demon King's eyes narrowed. Continue, Yang Dingtian replied. With your suspicious character, how is it possible for you to believe whatever others say? Because you already had the answer in your mind. You just borrowed Yang Jing's mouth to say it. It was also because you were so confident that you misjudged Yang Zheng and put the blame on him. Otherwise, with your meticulousness and cunning, how could you let Yang Zheng succeed? It was just that you were prejudiced by first impressions and believed that it was Shimanju. Not only that, your understanding of Yang Zheng completely exceeded the normal range. That was why you firmly believed in him and believed in his extreme hatred for me and Cloud Heaven City. If it wasn't Shiman Wuya, who would understand Shimanju and Yang Zheng so well? The Demon King took a deep breath and said, "This reason is very sufficient. To be able to see through such a small flaw, Yang Dingtian, who said that you're not smart. You're very smart." Yang Dingtian said, "Everyone is smart. It's just that many people aren't willing to think of others in such a bad way. So they seem to be slow to realize it." "All right," the Demon King said. "Since it's already like this, I won't say anything more. That's right. I'm the Demon King Wentian's contracted body, and I'm also his dark walker. Your master, Dongfang Minmi, was crippled by me and imprisoned in this world of ice and snow. When I was young, I overestimated my talent and cultivated a rank 9 martial technique. When I was in my 20s, my cultivation didn't improve at all, and I became a laughingstock. That was why I went to the ends of the world. And when I was on the verge of death, I was led to the soul-leaving palace. They used 20 years of glory in exchange for my soul and life. I agreed, so I turned from a trash to a genius expert." The Demon King's gaze fell into confusion and said, "When I made the deal with the soul-leaving palace, I had nothing. That was why I felt that using my soul in exchange for 20 years of glory was worth it. But after the deal, I became stronger. Not only did I have a beautiful wife, I also had a cute daughter, and I even had Cloud Heaven City as my foundation. If nothing had happened after that, I would have very likely become the #1 expert in the Taiando League. Who would be willing to end such days? I also felt that this deal was a huge loss. This thought was very normal. Everyone was like that, greedy, the Demon King continued. But at that time, the 20-year period was about to end. The soul imprint that the Demon King Wentian left in my brain was about to completely awaken and take over my body. My soul was about to scatter in the wind. I couldn't accept it. That was why I thought of a way to survive after putting myself on the brink of death. I made Zhu Qingzhu, who was also a spy for the Demon King, attack me. He let me be hit by the soul-devouring Xianqi. This way, I would be between death and immortality, and I would be able to escape the time limit of my soul being destroyed. Yang Dingtian said, "You were very lucky and you succeeded." The Demon King said, "Yes, I succeeded, because only by dying could I escape from the 20-year contract. But I wasn't willing to really die, so the soul-devouring Xianqi became the best choice." Yang Dingtian said, "Then, you were frozen in a near-death state for a few years, waiting for the day when the Demon Queen took out your body, thawed it, and gave it to the Demon King Wentian for possession. In the end, who knew that after the possession, there was actually a Shiman Wuya's soul hidden inside?" The Demon King said, "Yes, and it was a complete soul. Yang Dingtian, you haven't stayed in the brain world before, so you don't know how wonderful it is inside. The human brain is like a complete boundless universe, incomparably large and incomparably complicated." Yang Dingtian said, "I know, of course I know. I have entered my own brain world before. It is full of mystery and infinite traps." The Demon King sneered and said, "No, you still don't know. You haven't experienced the battle of the brain world. After the Demon King took over my body and put on the Chaos Emperor armor, my soul, and his began a fierce battle for possession of his soul. His soul was incomplete, so my chances of winning were higher. However, for our common goal, our two souls temporarily stopped fighting. I will temporarily lay low and allow the Demon King to take control of my body. In the end, he stayed on the throne of darkness for too long. His soul was already numb, and he actually fell into your hands. Yang Dingtian said. Then, when we were about to execute the Demon King Wentian, we didn't expect Su Yan's soul to fall and be possessed by Eternal Farewell Wentian. Then, Eternal Farewell Wentian, who schemed, finally completely occupied this powerful Demon King's body. The Demon King smiled and said, yes, when Su Yan and the Demon King's bodies merged into one. The souls in this brain world were unprecedentedly complicated. There were Wentian from the Chaos world, Wentian from Earth, and Su Yan who had fallen. However, their souls were either incomplete or depraved and pale. Only my soul in this body is absolutely complete and powerful. That Eternal Farewell Wentian thought that he had everything, but he didn't expect that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Therefore 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, after a few months, I completely occupied the absolute control of this body. Yang Dingtian said. Then what about Wentian from the Chaos world and Wentian from Earth? The Demon King said. In the corner of the brain world hibernating. Yang Dingtian said. In other words, the Demon King is now completely under your control. Then can I call you Shiman? Wuya. Wuya. Demon King Shiman Wuya. What a sarcastic name. Absolutely. And I guarantee that this will be the last name for the Demon King. The Demon King said slowly. It was me who had the last laugh. They crazily fought over this Demon King's body. And in the end, it fell into my hands. Yang Dingtian said. It was as if the 3 kingdoms were fighting for hegemony, and in the end, the world fell into the hands of the Sima clan. The Demon King said with a smile. I know the romance of the 3 kingdoms. I can recite it backwards from the memories of Earth's Wentian. Yang Dingtian bowed to him and said, I pay my respects to father-in-law. Well said, well said. The Demon King said, although you and I are father and son-in-law, I'm sorry, but this body of yours was chosen by the god of chaos, and I've been eyeing it for many, many years. Otherwise, I wouldn't have betrothed my daughter to you. Therefore, I still want to destroy your soul and occupy your body. Yang Dingtian said. And then occupy my wife including Yinyan Shiman? The Demon King suddenly twitched, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Yang Dingtian said. Shiman Wuya, why did you do all this? Don't tell me that you don't even want your daughter and wife for the sake of power? Where is your soul, your heart? No, no, no. The Demon King Shiman Wuya laughed and said, don't give me chicken soup for the soul. The moment I used my soul to trade in the soul-leaving palace, I already had no heart. As I said, I fell into the dark abyss long ago. What emotions, what family, they are all empty. Only strength, only self, only energy are eternal. Even the Naga knows this. I can't be worse than an animal. Then, as if drunk, the Demon King Shiman Wuya greedily sniffed this intoxicating aura and said, Yang Dingtian, I went from being a trash that was ridiculed by others to today's situation, and become the new Demon King. Moreover, I'm about to mate with the Naga, and become a demigod. In the future, I can even become the ruler of this world, and become a new god. Isn't this a miracle? I can even do such a miracle. I really have a feeling of floating in the air. Alright. The Demon King once again walked forward step by step and said, the past is the past. Let's look at the present. The rolling waters of the Yangtze River flow to the east. The waves drown the heroes. The Demon King's every step was a poem from Earth. It seemed like Earth's Beta Wentian's literary reserves were very rich. Wentian won't do, Nihility Piaoling won't do, Yongxi won't do, Demon's Wrath II won't do, Yaoqi won't do, Su Yan won't do, Dongfang Minmi won't do, Zhu Qingzhu won't do, Duguxiao won't do, Qin Wancho won't do. The Demon King Shiman Wuya walked in front of Yang Dingtian, and lightly grabbed his neck. Raising him up high, he said, Yang Dingtian, I really want to say that sentence in the Romance of the 3 Kingdoms. Ha 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 ha. The Demon King Shimen Wuya said, I really want to say, the heroes of the world are only you, Yang Dingtian, and I Shimen Wuya. However, you Yang Dingtian still won't do. Of course, even if you Yang Dingtian are Liu Bei, then the Demon King Wentian is only Cao Cao. Then I Shimen Wuya will bear with it and be Sima Yi for once. Yang Dingtian's neck was grabbed, and he said hoarsely, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, you are indeed familiar with it. The Demon King Shimen Wuya said, I have no choice, it's too boring and lonely. I can only look for books to read in Wentian's memories. Yang Dingtian said, On earth there is a saying, the young don't read the water margin, the old don't read the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I'm not old yet, I'm still in my prime. The Demon King Shimen Wuya laughed loudly and said, After I become a half-god, I will strip off this Chaos Emperor armor, and I will be able to sleep with 10 women. Don't worry, your women will be happier with me than with you. Yang Dingtian asked again, Then what about Yin Yan? The Demon King's face twitched again, and he slowly said, Yang Dingtian, when I betrothed Yin Yan to you, my heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Okay. The Demon King said, Time's up, go on your way, go on your way. I want your body. I will enjoy the peerless Naga body. I will also kindly accept the body of a half-god. Go on your way. Suddenly, the Demon King's face twisted, and his eyes burst out with a fierce light. His demon claws were suddenly placed on Yang Dingtian's head. The entire space was instantly filled with wails and howls. Between heaven and earth, a cold wind blew, and black clouds pressed down. The Demon King's hand suddenly overflowed with a terrifying green light, and it suddenly drilled into Yang Dingtian's brain. Evil soul art. The Demon King Shimen Wuya wanted to extract Yang Dingtian's soul and turn him into a walking corpse. Ayo! The entire world seemed to be distorted. Countless ghosts seemed to be floating down from the sky and drilling out from the ground. Yang Dingtian's face was torn and distorted. The soul in his brain was about to be stripped away inch by inch. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.